Well, and good morning. It is a Thursday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. I'm Glenn. He's Griffin. And yes, I'm still struggling to get the words to come out of my mouth. You know what it is? It's because it's not 3 degrees. If it was still 3 degrees outside, I'd be fine. But the moment it changes at all, I'm screwed. I sucked down an entire bag, this is the only one I have left, of Ricola lozenges last night to try to get through the Loyola women's basketball game.
But you got through it.
I did get through it, but it was because, and I had like 3 more bags of tea during the day. I'm an artist, obviously. I have to protect the instrument. It really just, if Maryland hadn't played last night, there would have been a part of me that like, maybe we just take tomorrow off. Maybe just get a day to regroup. But that's not the way it works. We're here. We got a lot to do on a Thursday edition of the program. Speaking of Maryland, obviously, yes, huge win over Wisconsin last night. Got a little dicey a couple of times. In the first half, it started to get away from them a little bit. Second half, they fell behind by 6. How about Deshaun Harris-Smith knocking down a huge 3 when they were trailing last night?
And they say this team doesn't have depth.
They scored 6 bench points. 6 bench points.
6 big bench points.
That's true. It's true. Anyway, yeah, we'll talk to Bruce Weber, of course, former head coach at Illinois and Kansas State. He had Selton Miguel at Kansas State. It was fun hearing him last night talk about Selton Miguel, who had 4 more threes. He also ended up in some foul trouble late, but he had 4 more threes. Big shots for Maryland in their win over Wisconsin, their 3rd straight quad 1 victory. So we'll talk to Bruce Weber about the Terps. Also later on in the program, our first NFL draft segment of the season. We'll head down to the Senior Bowl. Our buddy Emory Hunt from CBS Sports and football game plan. We will check in with him. Who's hit some heads? Who's he got his eye on down there? And we talk about some of the local guys that are down in Mobile. We'll do that this morning as well. And when we did, so I think it was 7 days ago, we did our final season pats and slaps of the Ravens, and I said, hey, the thing about this is because of the nature of the rules, it's not really a fair, full adjudication of every player. So I promised we would do a report card, so we will do that today as well. All of that coming up on a Thursday edition of the program. Today's show brought to you by the CIAA tournament.
That's right. Baltimore is welcoming the excitement of the Food Lions CIAA men's and women's basketball tournament back to CFG Bank Arena from February 25th through March 1st. Their tickets are available now. You can get them at Ticketmaster.com. Again, go to Ticketmaster.com to find your tickets for the Food Lions CIAA men's and women's basketball tournament at CFG Bank Arena February 25th through March 1st.
Look, what a win. I mean, what a win for Maryland. And it would be fair to say, hey, who do we have on yesterday that said that's you have to? John Fantas said, if you're legit, you win this game at home. And he's right. And again, there's context to that. Legit how? Legit NCAA tournament team? Because a lot of teams are going to go to the NCAA tournament that will end up having a home blemish that you look back on. For example, Maryland lost to Marquette earlier this year. Marquette's not going to win the national championship. They're really good, but, you're going to lose a game every now and then, even at home, that you're going to look back on and say, maybe in hindsight we should have had that one. But if you're a team that really is going to be capable of making a run in March and being different, and it's difficult to quantify that, right? Everybody wants to say something. The easiest thing for everybody to say is, well, Maryland looks like they can be a Sweet 16 team, because that doesn't feel like you're saying anything dramatic. By the way, I say Marquette's not going to win the national championship.
Are they still top? They're not still in the top 10.
I think they're still 9th.
Oh, really?
I think so. I don't know that they're not going to win the national. That's really what they're a really good team. There is absolutely zero shame in Maryland losing to Marquette. Maybe I'm saying it the wrong way. I guess what I'm just saying is sometimes you lose home games. That's going to happen. Sometimes you lose home games to good teams.
You're saying they should never lose at home. I got it.
my point is it's going to happen. But I get it. I get that Wisconsin probably not quite as good as Marquette, although I think they're good. If you're going to be a team that's going to make a deep run, that's going to be different, whatever that looks like, a team that's going to compete to win the Big Ten tournament, a team that's going to compete for an accomplishment. And that's really the tricky part about this, is what quantifies as an accomplishment. Have we lowered the standards so much that we say, hey, if this team gets to the Sweet 16, let's say they're a 5 seed. I'm just trying to do some of this math. Who's got a live bracketology that I can look at? Joe Lenardi. Live bracketology. I don't know if he does it live. I don't know if he's like constantly. I feel like Joe Lenardi flips it pretty frequently. So let's see. Let's just play this exercise. I don't think he has him as a 5. He has him as a 7 right now. So that would be an accomplishment as a 7 seed to get to the Sweet 16 because it would involve you having to beat the 2 is Tennessee. But just for funsies, let's say we'll switch it with Memphis is the 5 seed for Joe Lenardi in the Midwest. And let's say Maryland bumps up a little bit, and now they're the 5 seed, and they beat Bradley, and then they beat Illinois, who would be the 4 seed in that region. Now, they wouldn't do that because they wouldn't want to have a conference matchup, so maybe this is a bad.
They may have to do that at some point. I mean, if there's
going
to be 13
these
SEC
conferences
teams,
are so big that it's almost impossible. But you try as much as possible. Sometimes that happens.
Got William & Mary as the CAA Automatic qualifier.
Oh man, right now I get it. I do understand, but he's not saying that's who he expects to. It's just they're holding a spot, right? I'll go somewhere else. He's got Michigan as the 5 seed right now in the East. So let's flip flop. Let's say Maryland beats Yale and then beats the 4 seed Mississippi State. And they reach the Sweet 16, and then they proceed to lose to Duke, which would be
they would do that. They would set the bracket up that way.
God, right? But if it plays out that way, do we look back and say, wow, what an accomplishment that was? I don't know. The standard has been lowered, unfortunately, at Maryland to where you probably do say that. But
does it depend how you lose to Duke?
Yeah, maybe.
If you lose by 3,
does.
If you lose by 3 and Gillespie misses a 3, that rims out.
The one Sweet 16 that Mark Turgeon made was not an accomplishment whatsoever. I've said this a million times. It pissed people off. Then
that was the Kansas.
That was when
loss.
Was it Kansas or West Virginia?
Oh.
Whoever they got hammered. It might have been Kansas. You might be right about that. But remember, they beat 2. There was an upset. Oh God. I'm too old.
Yes, because they beat a 12 and a 13, right? So
because somebody had their best player get either hurt or suspended. Might have been Cal, if I remember correctly. God.
It was the 2016 tournament. Yeah, they beat South Dakota State in the first round, and then they beat 13 seed Hawaii in the second round.
They did nothing. And then what happened in the Sweet 16?
They lost to Kansas.
Yes, they got pummeled by Kansas. It was not competitive.
Lost by 16, yeah.
And I'm not sure that score reflects exactly what that game was. They were never competitive in that game. They just got railroaded.
They beat South Dakota State by 5, and then they beat Hawaii by 13, and then
And it doesn't mean they didn't reach the Sweet 16. It doesn't mean that they were awful. It just means that, to me, I don't view that as an accomplishment. They did what they should have done. They didn't do anything that made me say, okay, this team is different. This team's really good. So, yes, I do think context matters. And if they beat Mississippi State and then they go lose a heartbreaker to Duke where the ball's hanging on the rim and then maybe it does change your opinion a little bit. But the problem is this isn't the college basketball of old where if you do something like that, then you turn around and say, boy, this team is primed for next year. There's no next year. There's no these pieces might be back next year. Some of them. Derek Queen almost certainly will not. Julian Reese definitely will not. Selton Miguel will not. But, Jacoby Gillespie and Rodney Rice, I believe, do still have some eligibility. And so, they could be, but you got to you got to pony up the money because somebody else is going to look at the season they're having and say, if we got some money to spend, those would be two good pieces to spend some money on. You have one legitimate incoming freshman that is thought of in Jeffrey. You're going to be right back to the transfer portal to try to replenish a front court. There's no next year. There's no, hey, you're laying the foundation for what's to come. Everything is a vision of 1 year at a time. In an older version of college basketball, you get to the Sweet 16 like that, you would say that's just the first step. Now next year will be the real breakthrough. But it doesn't work that way anymore. Everything is a set of one season. There's no look at a 4-year, 3 guys coming together that are all learning how to win. There's no Juan Dixon, Steve Blake, Lonnie Baxter that's ever happening again. It's 1 year that you have. And so because of that, it's tougher to judge. What is an accomplishment for this Maryland team? Yes, I think we're at the point now where you would say anything short of the Sweet 16 could not be viewed as an accomplishment. It's not an accomplishment to get in to the NCAA tournament. That's where Maryland, even a down Maryland, should be every year. Winning a game in the NCAA tournament is not an accomplishment. An accomplishment requires making a run. And that, again, could be winning the Big Ten tournament would quantify as an accomplishment. Maryland hasn't won a championship of any sort in over a decade. I mean, it's not fair. They split the Big Ten regular season title. I do need to be fair about that. I know it irks Drew to death. But, they did split a Big Ten regular season title. So they have some sort of accomplishment in the last decade. But that's what they have in the last decade, is one shared Big Ten regular season championship. I don't know what this team can accomplish. And I do acknowledge I don't want to be the Mike Francesa of the world. I'm not going to try to pretend like I know so much about these other teams to have a better feeling of how Maryland would match up against Mississippi State. I don't know. I haven't watched Mississippi State at all this season. Patrick can tell us on Tuesday how that would be. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's hypothetical. We don't need to know how they match up against Mississippi State.
We'll start doing weekly segments. We just we discussed Lenardi's bracket,
right?
And if Maryland would be able to get a win,
and that's not even what it would show. This is even a hypothetical where I'm moving them over there, bumping them up. This all started because I was reacting to what John Fanta said yesterday, which is if you're legit, you win this game. And on the flip side, the other way to look at it is by winning that game, they're legit. This stretch of their last 3 games says this Maryland team is legit. The questions that we had, and we had lots of them, 9 days ago, after they barely survived against Nebraska, which to a lot of us was almost deflating as
right,
the 4 road losses. The performance against Nebraska made us sort of say,
kind of compounded with the week prior, getting by Minnesota.
100%. Made us kind of say, ugh. Is this a real thing, or is this just going to be another Maryland team that comes apart at the seams, disappoints us, and doesn't get us through to baseball season, which is the bare minimum of what we ask around here. We don't have an NBA team. We don't have an NHL team. Can you please be relevant enough to get us through to baseball season, or close, right? They're not baseball season would be the national championship game, but close to baseball season. Get us through to the week before baseball season so that we're not spending the entire month of March desperately searching for things to talk about or care about, particularly because they don't let us watch the spring training games. This last 9 days has eased those fears. No one right now thinks that this is a team that's about to fall apart. There's nothing that would suggest it. And it's, in fact, quite the contrary. It's the question of, is this group rising to a place where they could still be better? You could argue last night that wasn't even their best performance. Jacoby Gillespie wasn't very good last night. Derek Queen certainly wasn't very good last night. For what I point out about Selton Miguel making the 4 threes, he ended up in foul trouble. He struggled a little bit.
Julian Reese got in foul trouble in the first half.
Julian Reese, absolutely. There's a lot of things about last night's game where you would say they won, and in the end they won kind of comfortably. And yet it probably wasn't a complete performance. Is there still better? If the story of this team is the way they've come together, that it was always going to take time for a group of entirely new pieces to mesh together, then can they still get better than this? And if they can, well, then things get really interesting. They can. Oh, boy. We could be really talking about an accomplishment. We could be really talking about doing something. And I don't know. I don't want to get carried away. There's a lot of season left. They have won 2 road games. They're not yet at a place where you can assume they're going to win tough road games. That's still going to be, this is college basketball. This isn't the NFL, so we can't get a look-ahead line on what the Ohio State
I guess Ken Pom might have something, but yeah.
Maybe. If you can find it. But I don't even know. And by the way, that's an Ohio State team, of course, that they pummeled in College Park a few weeks back. But I don't know yet that I would say with confidence that I think Maryland should even be favored. I still think right now on the road against a competent, Big Ten team, they probably should be underdogs. And I think Ohio State still qualifies as competent. In fairness, the worst team in the Big Ten, their only Big Ten win is over Maryland. Go figure. So I don't know. I don't know that Maryland. I don't know who Maryland should be favored over on the road in the Big Ten.
They're remaining, so they're at Nebraska after Ohio State.
Mm-hmm. That would be one that you would say they should be favored in that game, but they beat them by 3 at home.
Nebraska, because I want to see what the line is tonight, because Nebraska plays tonight, tonight. And
why would you know that Nebraska plays tonight?
Well, because I follow Big Ten basketball.
Do you?
Yeah, I do.
You're zeroed in.
Yes. They host Illinois tonight. Illinois is 4.5-point favorites at Nebraska. So
then I would assume that Maryland will be favored. Yeah. And they should. They should. That's the type of team they should be favored over on the road. But that's the bar. Nebraska, again, a team they barely beat at home. But that's the bar of who they should be favored. I don't even think they should be favored. A part of this is somebody would say, well, they're favored on the road at Nebraska, then they have to be favored on the road at Penn State. No. No. I get the history of Maryland at Penn State does not matter in setting a line. I understand that, but it should. Maryland absolutely should not be favored at Penn State. They never win at Penn State. They never will. They will eternally lose every game they ever play.
Penn State is favored tonight against Ohio State.
Hosting
Ohio State they're favored by 2.5. So.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's so funny because I don't know that Penn State really is better than Nebraska at all, but it's funny to me that Penn State would be favored. Part of that is Illinois too. I think everybody believes that Illinois is better than kind of where they're mired right now at 6-4, and they've been through the flu and the whole thing. So,
according to Ken Pom, they have Ohio State at 28. Since I just have it up, they have Ohio State 28. Penn State is 44. So.
Okay. What about where's Illinois?
Illinois is. I have to search them. Illinois is. Oh wow, they're 11th.
Yeah. So that makes sense. That makes some sense based on those numbers. And where did Maryland move up to after last night?
They're 20 in Ken Palm.
So they moved up one spot.
Yeah, Wisconsin's at 19 still.
Okay. It's interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Look, man, great win. Great win. And great stretch of 8 days. And so much to like about this team. That all 5 of their starters are guys they can count on. I don't remember the last Maryland team that you felt that way about. Like even that team that had Diamond Stone and Rashid Suleiman, like, you know, Robert Carter wasn't a guy you were counting on the way that you're counting on Julian Reese. You're counting on night in and night out right now. You know, they can shoot. God, after everything that we went through a year ago trying to watch this unwatchable basketball team, like they all can shoot.
Do you get worried? Cut to the thing that Fanta was.
I say that their front court, like that. If there is a disappointing part, it's that we maybe thought that by now Derek Queen might
would
be
figure it out,
like a legitimate outside shooter. Their front court cannot shoot outside 8 feet, but that's okay because they're really good inside 8 feet. Like they're really good, but they don't have a stretch. I mean, it's unfair. Derek Queen is a stretch, and the reason why he's still going to be a draft pick and is going to go is because there's enough stretch to his game that NBA teams are going to say, well, if he can hit 10-footers, then we'll work with him and he'll hit threes moving forward. But that's not going to matter to Maryland. For Maryland, he's not a stretch. He's a big.
Yeah.
That's what he is. What were you?
Oh, because John Fanta brought up, they got to make sure they don't abandon the, going inside to Reese and Queen. Like they did shoot really well from 3 last night, but what happens the one night where they do happen to just go cold from 3? And is there any worry
I think somebody would say the Illinois game is the example of that. Like that to me was one of the things that was so encouraging about the 2 road wins. They were 2 very different games.
Mm-hmm.
I think Steve Lapis brought that up on Monday. One of them, the Illinois game, it was all inside. Now that was deliberate. That wasn't because that was how they started the game. They said Illinois is depleted in the front court. We are going inside all night, repeatedly. And Julian Reese obviously had his best game of the season, and he and Derek Queen overwhelmed a depleted Illinois front court. I think that's the encouraging part about, like, they can. If it's not there one night, if they're just off shooting-wise, they know they can go inside and live inside. And against Diallo on Sunday, they were struggling inside, and they needed to pick it up. Now, were there possessions where it felt like they still should have challenged a little bit more? Yeah. And sure, if you're is there something that concerns me? Could it concern me that they fall in love with the 3 and that they take some – the more that they shoot it, they end up taking some bad shots because they're overconfident in their shooting ability? Sure. But like last night, those were open looks.
Mm-hmm.
They were making extra passes. These weren't like coming down the floor and 5 seconds into the shot clock chucking up a 3. These were working through the offense and getting a good look. Even the Rodney Rice one that won the game at Indiana on Sunday was they started inside. In a 2-point game, they only needed 2. Started inside, worked the offense. Rodney Rice was open. I really like the offense they're running. I really do. This is, a lot of teams like. It is encouraging that the other 2 guards or wings are so involved in the offense because so often in college basketball, it's like the point guard is the offense. And those 2 dudes are just stand in the corner. Maybe I just got sick watching. I watched too much Mark Turgeon. So many times, like those other 2, the traditional shooting, the 2 and the 3 are guys that are just – maybe if you're open, we'll find. Like, they're all getting involved. Would I like to see Rodney Rice attack a little bit more? I guess, but, like, he's done it. Selton Miguel didn't do it last night, but we've seen Selton Miguel do it. Like, we've seen all of those guys penetrate. when it's been there. I really like what they're doing offensively. I really do. Ironically, I would say I think they're a good defensive team. There just seems to be stretches where they kind of lapse a little bit. They don't keep up the defensive intensity, but they are a good defensive team. There's a lot to like about this team, man. There really is. It's the quickest way to define it is it's a really pleasant watch.
Right.
And I know that it wasn't against Northwestern. It wasn't like the Oregon and Purdue games were still pleasant watches, even though the results went the wrong way. The Washington and Northwestern games were not pleasant watches. They were slogs. Nebraska was not a pleasant watch. Minnesota was not really a pleasant watch. I get it. I do understand that it hasn't been every night they're a pleasant watch. But more often than not.
And when they're able to win those unpleasant,
yeah, you'll
watches.
live with it.
Yeah.
But more often than not, sitting down to watch a Maryland game is pleasant. You're like, I'm glad I get to spend some of my weekend doing this. Selfishly, I wish there was a Maryland game this weekend because we don't have anything else to do.
We got the Pro Bowl games.
Thank you. We do have that. We got nothing else to do. And, I wish there was a Maryland game to watch. But I do think it's good for them because all they're going to hear about for the next 3 days is how great they are. And so I would almost worry about if they played this weekend, like a true letdown after this stretch of 3 games. I do think it's maybe better that they get a whole week and that they get through it and they'll be ranked next week. And
you get to see Ohio State play twice before you play them.
That's a good point, too, 100%. Yeah, they get 7 days until they play next Thursday at Ohio State. All right, today's show is also brought to you by County Sports Zone. CountySports.zone is the website for you to find out everything going on in high school sports here in the state of Maryland. As we're getting into the home stretch for winter sports season, basketball playoffs just around the corner. Find out all the scores, the schedules, the rankings, all the news updates. Some new football coaches announced this week, like Ty Ward over at Calvert Hall. Find all of it, CountySports.zone, proudly sponsored by your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. We'll come back in, keep talking some Terps. Bruce Weber joins us next, Glenn Clark Radio.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Driving in Maryland? Did you know an Easy Pass from DriveEasyMD.com can save you time and money? Of course you did, because you are a thrifty driver. An antenna reads your Easy Pass transponder and automatically deducts the toll from your Easy Pass account. Learn more at DriveEasyMD.com.
Treat yourself and taste the Baltimore tradition that is the legendary Costas Inn. Hey, it's Stan the Fan Charles. For over 50 years, the Costas Inn has been a Baltimore original, dishing out their amazingly scrumptious, fat, award-winning crab cakes and steamed crabs. Every season is crab season at Costas, so make your plans now by calling 410-477-1975 and reserve your taste of heaven. Sit back, crack some crabs, and watch the Ravens chase down another title on Costas' 15 TVs. On Monday nights, Costas offers their half-pound jumbo lump crab cake with 2 sides for under $30, and there are nightly specials Monday through Friday. So head on down to the Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard or visit them at CostasInn.com.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
COVID-19 and flu viruses are circulating in Maryland. But don't worry, protection is within arm's reach. Protect your health with this year's COVID-19 and flu shots. It's safe and convenient to get them both at the same time. Flex your protection. For more information, visit health.maryland.gov/vaccines.
This message paid for by the Maryland Department of Health. coming back in here with Glenn and the other guy, Garrett, whatever his name is. You know who they are.
All right, back in here on GCR as we continue along on a Thursday edition of the program. We had to do this a little bit earlier on because of his schedule and flying home after working in Chicago in studio last night, but an opportunity to catch up with Coach Bruce Weber right here on GCR. Well, last night when Maryland was in trouble, down 6 in the second half, it was Selton Miguel that they turned to get a huge 3 and get things turned around against Wisconsin. And it was fun to hear this man tell us some Selton Miguel stories last night on Big Ten Network. He is, of course, the former head coach at Kansas State where he had Selton Miguel. Now you see him on BTN. He is Bruce Weber, and he is with us again this morning here on GCR. Coach, it's Glenn in Baltimore. Always great to chat with you. Thank you for taking the time for us this morning.
Yeah, it's good to be on, and you know, just kind of a little bit like a proud dad.
Yeah.
You watch Selton have some success, and I'm really happy for him. You know, just an amazing story. You know, to come from Angola and, you know, through Portugal to Florida, really not know any English, and to have the success he's had and determination and how he's improved. The sad part is when I had him, he was only a 20% shooter from 3, and we worked hard at it, and I guess it's finally paying off. He had a great year last year at South Florida, and is really helping the Terps this year.
I feel like, you know, I don't. His story is so important because we saw a stretch this season where he was really struggling to assert himself, and now maybe just being available as a shooter, and when the path is there, what it does for Maryland to have all 5 of their starters be legitimate offensive threats that defenses have to pay attention to. Like, it's such a difference maker that he has come on for this team the way that he has.
Yeah, he's just, you know, one, he's got great toughness, and he's a really good defender, and I don't know if he's gotten as much credit as he should probably get, but, you know, but like all young guys, they want to expand their game and do all these things, and, you know, when I've texted with them off and on and talked to them, I just say, you know, you got to be yourself and use your strengths, and I think he's doing that, and you know, as a group, when when you're adding 4 new guys to that, you know, Reese is only real returnee.
Yeah.
You know, they got to figure it out, and I think slowly but surely they figured out their roles, how to help each other and create for each other, and they're cooking right now. They look like a really good ball club, and you can score inside. You got guys that can shoot and make plays, so. It's impressive, and when you go to Indiana and Illinois and win on a weekend, you know, that says you're a pretty good team.
I wanted to get your thoughts, Coach, on how this team over the last 8 days has flipped the switch the way that they have. And I'm not trying to suggest that they were a bad team 8 days ago, but I think 8 days ago the trend wasn't good, right? Like they couldn't win a road game, and they were struggling at home against Nebraska and barely hanging on for a win. What do you feel like has changed that's allowed them to have this incredible stretch of 3 quad 1 wins in a row?
Yeah, I actually had their Minnesota game a couple of weeks ago, and Minnesota, you know, battled them till the end. If, you know, a little bit of foul trouble for Minnesota probably helped Maryland there, and Queen, as the game, Queen went crazy in the second half, and kind of helped them take control of the game. But again, what I said, and I've said this since media day, when you're bringing groups together and trying to figure it out, there's a curve for that learning process and learning each other. I think Gillespie has slowly but surely figured out what he's about. I think the coaches are starting to figure out, hey, how do we get Queen the ball? How do we get Reese the ball? We're a Selton strengths. And then Rodney Rice really stepped up. Again, another great story, you know, somebody that didn't play last year. And then I thought last night Harris Smith really came in and gave him a nice little spark. And Jay Young came in and, you know, gave him some energy. And, you know, little things like that, just kind of figuring out what you are as a team. Slowly but surely you come together, and that's what seems to be happening with them right now.
Bruce Weber is with us here on GCR. Coach, to me, and I'm not trying to say he's the most important player on the team, but what Julian Reese has done this season, because maybe we needed to expect there were going to be some dips for Derek Queen as a freshman. But Julian Reese shooting 73% from the free throw line after 2 years where he was in the 50s, and now you can't just foul him when he's inside, and he can show off a full arsenal of moves. To me, seems like that has been the biggest difference for this team is how solid he's been night in and night out.
Yes, and not only that, the maturity, because now you bring in Derek Queen, and there's nights where he is the guy, and they go to because he has the advantage, and he's going and scoring, and for him to take a back seat a little bit, and just do other things, rebound and defend, and then the other nights he's the guy that's scoring. So I give him a lot of credit for his maturity, his leadership with that group. I know Selton, he's older, and he wants to be a superstar and NBA player like everyone, but he also wants to win. And you see some pretty good emotion, on the court from all their guys coming together as a team and figuring out, hey, this is how we can win. If we play together, we play hard, we defend, we share the basketball, we got a chance to be one of the top teams in the Big Ten.
You mentioned a couple of guys coming off the bench, but to be fair, they still only had 6 bench points last night. Do you have concerns at all about their depth and if they're limited at all because of it? Or, I know the argument is always, hey, you get to the NCAA tournament, you're going to be playing 6 guys anyway. That's just the way that this works.
Well, yeah, I think there is a concern, and very few coaches right now, and I talked to Tom Izzo because he's a good friend. This is one of his first times in his career that he's playing 10 guys, and he even, we talk about it. It's hard. It's hard as a coach to play those 10, keep them happy, rotate them. Especially you get to close games at the end. Who's going to be in there? You go, as a coach, you go with your gut feeling, who you trust at that last 5 minutes, but he's been able to do that. So, they have 8 guys, I think that coach feels he can put in. The big thing is you get late in the season, are you going to have injuries? Are you going to have foul trouble in certain games? And that's, I guess, if you had a fear as a Terps fan, that would be the thing your concern would be, to hopefully stay away from those 2 things that make a difference in games and the finish of the season.
The other thing to me that's like so encouraging, this team a year ago had like one guy that could consistently knock down a 3-pointer. They had Jameer Young, and that was it. They were an awful shooting team last year. What we saw.
I'll be honest, when I was starting to talk, the first thing I was going to say, and you brought up Reese's free throws. Not only they couldn't make free throws, they couldn't make threes. I remember being on with you a couple times, and what about coach? What does he do? Well, if they can't make shots, there's not much he
100%,
can do, to be
100%.
honest. And this year, it really helps. They can spread the court. It allows the big guys to be able to have some room to work. And people always, I don't think fans understand all the time. Like, you can improve as a team as the season goes on, because you're figuring out, hey, this is where I can get Queen the ball. These, they went to the short roll, the picking the little ball screen and short roll last night late, and they did that against Minnesota. And it's tough to have Reese on that block, shooters on the wing, Gillespie and Queen in a little 2-man game. So you start figuring out those things so you can get better as a team, and I think that's what they've done. Now, they still got to go to Ohio State coming up.
Right.
So it is not going to be easy. That Ohio State is I guess a unusual team. You just never know what you're going to get, because they've beaten some of the best teams, but then they haven't played well in other games. So they're going to have to play well. But if you look at that schedule, you're not looking too far ahead. We reviewed it last night late that they're sitting pretty good if they can get through this Ohio State game. And I'm not saying they're going undefeated, but they are going to be in pretty good shape here down the stretch of the game if they stay healthy and keep playing like they are.
To your point, most of the most difficult part of their schedule is through. Obviously, they still have Michigan State to come, and ironically, Maryland never wins at Penn State, and it's go figure. But like for the most part, the most brutal part of the schedule they're through. What you're just talking about for a second, Coach. the ability as they're growing, they can knock down shots. Everybody's contributing. How much of a threat is this team? Like, is this a team that now, like, you look at and say they can be a top 4 seed in the NCAA tournament? Like, they're a team that has the pieces that you need to make a deeper run when it comes to March.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt. And, Andy Katz has been on there, had them on the bus going to, being a top team for about a month now. And then they had the little setback on that West Coast trip, and Andy kind of got off the bus a little bit. Now he's back on, and he wants them in the top 25. So I think there's a lot of people that feel they have a good upside. You got guard play. You got big guys. I guess, just as we talked about, your question would be depth and staying healthy. But if they do that, if you finish in the top 4 in the league, you got to have a chance to be, I don't know about top 4 seed, but definitely, 5, 6, somewhere in there, and a chance to make a little bit of a run in the NCAA tournament. I think we have a lot of teams in the league that can be Sweet 16 teams. Now, you're going to have the right breaks and matchups to kind of move on and get to that Elite 8, Final 4, and but you never know, and they're one of those teams right now that looks like they can, be involved in the tournament and do some damage.
Tell me if I'm crazy for thinking that it's good that they have this little break now, because they are going to be riding so high, and everybody's going to be telling them how great that they are over the course of the next few days. I almost worry that, like, if the Ohio State game was on Sunday, that you'd be in a prime letdown spot. Like, as a coach, is it maybe a good thing that you have a week off? You get through the part where everybody's telling them about how great they are, and then you go play a game after that.
Well, it might be even the other way, where they have too many days to hear how great they are, and they can't recover. But you want that bye week. Sometime, because they do need rest. You get legs back. They've had a really tough stretch here. We'll see what happens with Ohio State over the next, this next stretch here with their game. They got Penn State, I think, coming up tonight. And, you just never know. As a coach, though, once you get in feeling good about your team, you want to keep game rhythm. I'll be honest. And, every 3-4 days you want to be playing and keep that rhythm. And then there's a point when you feel late in the season, if you can get that bye week and give them 2 days off in a row, it always helps. And fresh legs, fresh minds goes a long way, especially when you're in the dog days of February.
There's no doubt about that. Coach, what is on the docket for you now? Where are we seeing you? Where are we hearing you? What's the schedule look like?
Well, I get a couple of weeks out of the studio. They asked me I'm doing a West Coast swing. I'm doing a Oregon and Washington swing, and then back in the studio the last 3 weeks of the season, and then we'll be in Indianapolis for the tournament, and that should be a blast. I mean, with all the teams,
it's insane, right?
As a former coach, I am, I know why the Big Ten, only went to 15, and I understand some of it, but that's going to be really tough when you have 3 teams not part of that tournament, and it'll be interesting to me to see if the voices of the coaches, if they have any strength to get that changed, especially after the first year.
Well, we're hoping that we won't be seeing you until Friday of the Big Ten tournament. We're hoping that's the case.
That would be nice.
No
That's
doubt.
for the Terps fans. There's no doubt.
At Coach Bruce Weber is how you can follow him. Coach, really appreciate taking the time for us this morning. Thanks so much. Let's talk again real soon, all right?
Good talking to you. Thank you.
That's Bruce Weber, of course, Big Ten Network Analyst. Appreciate him taking the time for us this morning after Maryland's big win last night, and we saw him in studio. Stay on the Fan, caught up with Mary Drexler and someone who has a really interesting story, Jim Nolan, who is someone who went through gambling addiction and has come out on the other side and is now a peer specialist, and a really fascinating conversation about the dangers of gambling addiction and the help that can be provided from 1-800-GAMBLER and helpmygamblingproblem.org. You can find that show right now, facebook.com/PressBoxSports, youtube.com/PressBoxOnline, or PressBoxOnline.com/video. A little bit of Ravens news yesterday. We will discuss that. Then, as promised, our final Ravens report cards, the final thoughts that we'll have on the past season, coming up, it is a Thursday edition of Glenn Clark Radio.
Treat yourself and taste the Baltimore tradition that is the legendary Costas Inn. Hey, it's Stan the Fan Charles. For over 50 years, the Costas Inn has been a Baltimore original, dishing out their amazingly scrumptious, fat, award-winning crab cakes and steamed crabs. Every season is crab season at Costas, so make your plans now by calling 410-477-1975 and reserve your taste of heaven. Sit back, crack some crabs, and watch the Ravens chase down another title on Costas' 15 TVs. On Monday nights, Costas offers their half-pound jumbo lump crab cake with 2 sides for under $30, and there are nightly specials Monday through Friday. So head on down to the Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard or visit them at CostasInn.com.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
The votes were all counted, and the results are official. Royal Farms was named #1 for food in the USA Today 10 Best poll, receiving more votes than any other convenience store chain in America. The next time you want to get some good food fast, doesn't it make sense to go to Royal Farms? Voted best in the USA and home of world-famous chicken. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now, and it's our very special Best of 2024 issue. On the cover, we celebrate our Mo Gabba Sports Person of the Year, Lamar Jackson, as Bo Smolka profiles what the quarterback means to the community beyond the football field. Also inside, we celebrate the top people, performances, and moments of the year in local sports. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always read the entire issue and find the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
Need a trophy or award that's as unique as the achievement? Look no further than Crown Trophy. With locations in Owings Mills and Gaithersburg, they specialize in custom trophies, plaques, and medals for any occasion. From sports and academic awards to employee recognition and corporate gifts, visit crowntrophy.com today and let them help you create a lasting memory for your school, team, or business. Crown Trophy is a proud supporter of the Maryland Public Secondary Schools Athletic Association. crowntrophy.com.
One of the things that's definitely wrong with this country is that this dude still has a job somehow, some way. Glenn Clark.
All right, back in here on GCR's Continue Along on a Thursday edition of the program. In the aftermath of the Chuck Pagano news the other night, some further news about the Ravens and their coaching staff yesterday as Chris Hewitt and the Ravens have parted ways, apparently mutual. You know, think of whatever you want to think of, given there. Chris Hewitt's role had been assistant head coach after Jerry Rossberg had left. And then Anthony Weaver, I believe, was assistant head coach was until he, of course, left to become a defensive coordinator. And he was also the pass game, the coordinator defensively. So maybe with Chuck Pagano coming into the whatever the title was they gave him, this
senior defensive secondary.
This was always going to be a 1-to-1 swap. Like, this is what it was going to be. But Chris Hewitt no longer with the Ravens. Ironically, I believe on the same day, Chris Hewitt's son, who played football at Calvert Hall, committed to play at Rutgers. So if you were searching Chris Hewitt on Twitter yesterday, just a lot of different.
I guess that was the plan. They were like, when we do this.
Yeah, everybody does it at once, right? Yeah. Like, that's the way that it's going to work. Chris Hewitt Jr. is a safety at Calvert Hall and has another year that he's. I don't know if he'll still play at Calvert Hall or if he'll – I have no idea what that'll be like, but he is committed to play for Rutgers moving forward. So a little bit of Ravens news yesterday, maybe not all that surprising given the Chuck Pagano edition. Now, with that said, the thing about Pats and Slaps is we're only doing 10 Ravens on those lists. And – there, as we said when we did that, there's like a lot of guys that we were thinking about and like deserve credit. So what we're going to do now, this is our final word on the 2024 Baltimore Ravens season, is we're going to go over not every player on the roster.
Oh.
No.
I did all that work.
Yeah, did you? No, you can't post it. I take it back. I was going to say you could post it on the website. No, you're not going to do that. Not every play on the roster, but everybody who contributed. So, for example, Deontay Johnson, who made my slaps list, will not be someone that we give a grade to here. My cutoff is going to be players who played at least 20% of the snaps, offensively or defensively. And then we'll do the key special teams guys. But 17 players played at least 250 offensive snaps. Can you name all 17? No.
Okay. Lamar.
Yes, believe it or not. He came in at 1,074 playing 96.7% of their snaps.
What happened? What
right? What a
where
bum.
was he the other 4%?
What a bum. All right. We'll just go what we'll do. Here's the way to work. Traditional grading. You can do A+, A minus, B+, B, B minus, C+, C, C minus, D+, D, D minus, or F. Those are your options.
And we're doing a full postseason included
the
in
entirety
these?
of the entirety of the year. One grade for the entirety of the year. We'll begin with offensive coordinator Todd Monken. Todd Monken will be the first that we give a grade to, and I would say that on the year, Todd Monken is a B+. There were still times occasionally where we kind of scratched our heads a little bit. I think there was some confusion about what they were trying to do early on. There were questions about times where Lamar should be running more. On the whole, the offense was outstanding. I think some of the, again, like little things that we remember recently, like a 2-point conversion where Derrick Henry's not in the backfield, just little head-scratching things. Maybe I'm being too tough on Todd Monken, but B+ is what came to mind for Todd Monken on the year.
Yeah, I think if you're doing like an out of 100, like 90, so I think I would go A or A minus.
Okay.
Because of this offense was incredible. Like it was at times they were incredible.
I agree with you, but
and the 2-point conversion thing is certainly strong. But it was 4,000 passing yards and 3,000 rushing yards.
I
and
agree.
Obviously the direction that the NFL is heading, that this might happen again soon. But that is something that we do not see.
I also thought that the play of the offensive line early on was, and I get it, there were a lot of moving parts. I just think there was enough things
that
the
coach,
passing away. I
Right.
understand it's complicated. I get that, and in the end, it's why I think that, we're not going to pretend like B+ is a bad grade.
Right,
that's a fine grade, but I never felt like it was. They were getting more than what they should have been getting. They had Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. I thought they should be really good. There were still a couple of times where I found myself kind of scratching my head about what was going on. So that's the reason for the grade. You said A-.
I will go A-, yes.
Right. The highest percentage of offensive snaps this year was played by
Tyler Linderbaum.
Second highest.
Stanley was pretty. Stanley.
Third highest.
Rosengarten. No, not Rosengarten. Scratch that one.
Sixth highest.
Scratch that one. Who am I forgetting? Let's see. McCary started it right. Talking McCary.
Fifth highest.
The highest on the line. So it had to be
1,107 snaps. He played 99.7% of offensive snaps.
Faalele.
Daniel Faalele.
Wow, that's crazy that he.
So
the biggest guy on the field and.
Right.
Never came off.
Never came off the field.
Good for him.
Daniel Faalele.
Factor into the grade here.
It's so funny you say that, right? Because, to me, the first thing I said was, I don't know, C?
Right.
But,
he didn't stand out.
Boy, he stayed on the field. Yeah. C+. That's kind of where I default to. C+.
I want to, for all the troubles that the offensive line did have early in the year in that first month, they were the entire conversation around the offense. They did really they figured things out. The offense that did take shape a little bit, and it assisted the O-line more. I feel like I'm inclined to give him a better grade. It's not like he was, obviously, I guess, as an interior lineman, you're not going to typically get those illegal formations, but, it's not like he was the guy that was constantly holding or a guy that was I don't think he was constantly getting penalized or he wasn't an illegal man upfield that kind of thing. I think Falele had a pretty solid year. It's not, he wasn't going against 5-star edge rushers every time either. But I think I guess they didn't really run like at the right guard a whole lot either.
Not a ton.
Yeah. So maybe C+. I'm leaning B-, especially given the fact that they didn't want to take him off the field.
Griffin's gonna figure out what I say, and then he's gonna go a little bit. I like these guys more than you do. That's what this.
I want to be friends with them. Yeah.
Is gonna be.
I think B-.
Ronnie Stanley is next. Ronnie Stanley played 98.1% of the snaps for the Baltimore Ravens this season. I would give Ronnie Stanley an A-. I think Ronnie Stanley overall was really good. There were still obviously a few penalties and a few times he got beat, but overall, I think Ronnie Stanley was really good this season. A- to me is the grade for Ronnie Stanley.
I agree. I mean, yeah, the penalties he did get called for a few holdings. I don't know. Maybe because he did have what was the stretch that he didn't give up a sack at all? The penalties were still somewhat killer. I'll give him an A-. Yeah, we'll stick at A- for Ronnie Stanley.
Lamar Jackson played 96.7% of the snaps. I don't know, man. It's A+.
I know. Lamar. I mean, I guess you have to go A+.
I mean, come on.
Yeah,
you want to nitpick. You want to be
like he fumbled that one time.
Stop. Overall on the year, he was an A+. That's what he was. Next up, Patrick McCary played 89.9% of the snaps on the year. I'm going to let you go first. Maybe we should be alternating these. Maybe I'm realizing that.
McCary did end up on my slaps list. I don't think he had a particularly strong year. I mean, you do have to factor in, how his versatility, that he started at right tackle. They moved him to the opposite side of the offensive line, and he still played, what do you say? He still had the 6th most snaps on the team. Fifth most snaps on the team. There's something to be said for that. But he still struggled. He was consistently penalized, even when the penalties did seem to they got nipped in the bud. He was still the one guy that I felt like was typically the one getting called for those penalties. McCary's going to be D. Seems really hard. I'm going to go C- for Patrick McCary.
I was going to give him a C. I do still think that he's. And I might even lean towards a C+ to be truthful with you, because I still think that his he played well enough to me that he's going to get paid somewhere. But he also to me kind of showed why I don't think the Ravens I think the Ravens valued his versatility over his stability. And I think that was what became clear this year. That his real value is stepping in for stretches, not anchoring a position. So I'm going to still default to C+. I'm going to say C+ for McCary. You said C-.
Yes.
Roger Rosengarten played 84.05% of the snaps this season. I would go first for Roger Rosengarten. Roger Rosengarten to me was a B. And again, maybe we're grading on a curve there, right? Because it's a rookie.
Right.
But I think given what reasonable expectations were, Roger Rosengarten exceeded them. I'm not yet. Look, it might be that he's their left tackle next season, but I'm not comfortable with that today. I'm not boy, this guy's so good. You got to. He's a B. He was a B to me.
I mean, yeah, I guess my curve might be a little bit or less strict, or more strict. I'm gonna go B+. I thought he was really good as a rookie. I weren't really sure. Obviously, given drafting him in the 2nd round, they certainly had pretty high expectations. But for the way he performed in those last 2 Steelers games, dealing with T.J. Watt, whether it was whether that was 110% T.J. Watt or not, that was T.J. Watt, and he completely neutralized T.J. Watt, one of the best edge rushers, if not the best edge rusher in the NFL. So B+ for Roger Rosengarten. Obviously, some growing pains early on in the season, but certainly figured out down the stretch. So B+.
Next up on this list, we get to another skill position player.
Did you say B- for Rosengarten?
I said B for Roger Rosengarten. I'm also writing it down, even though I told you to. So we do have that going for. I don't know why I'm doing that.
Now we can
why am I bailing you out? Next up on the list, Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers is the next Raven. You're up first.
He was pretty good. Let's see. He 1,000 yards. Caught I guess he didn't catch a whole lot of touchdowns. He was a Pro Bowler. I mean, do you like you can't hold an injury against him in not being able to play in the playoffs? Man, he was really good. Zay Flowers was really good. I'm not really sure what more you can ask of him other than playing the final 2 games of the season. Like A-. Maybe
I think he's an A.
Yeah,
like,
I know.
I think he's an A. I think based on what he is. Again, I still think the Ravens. It's a difficult thing because this will always inherently be. You bring up they only had 4 touchdowns on the season. There's still a part that says like give me a prototype wide receiver. That's what I want. But for what he is, I don't really know how he does his job a whole lot better.
I mean, what he had like a couple drops at some point in the season, like
somebody would say, how's he not an A+? Well, it's almost like, well, I'm. There's only a few guys to me that are so good that they can be A+.
Right.
He's an A.
Can I go up to A as well? A even. You're not gonna allow it?
Fine.
Yeah. Well, I told you I was really close to it.
Fine.
You're right.
He played 74.9% of the snaps.
You got that one right.
Thank you. Rashad Bateman played 69% of the snaps.
Nice.
Yeah, I knew you would do that. Rashad Bateman is next on the list, and to me, Rashad Bateman's a B+. Again, a couple of drops in there, but overall, when the ball comes his way, he makes plays.
He became a go-to guy in the red zone, and when they got really inside the 40, like that was what did he end up with 10 touchdowns on the year? Or did he have 9?
I think it was 9.
I think B+ is correct as well. I mean, B+ is right around if you're on a grade of 100, like 89 is where you want to put Bateman at.
That's about what I felt.
Yeah.
Yep,
So B+.
100%. All right, next up on the list for offensive grades. Oh boy. This the Pro Football Reference page is crashing.
Yeah,
so
I pulled it up too, and it hasn't worked once for me yet.
I don't know what's going on over there. I don't know what's happening over at that place. Mark Andrews. Oh boy, Mark Andrews played at 61.4% of the snaps, and again, his grade includes the playoffs. Griffin, you get to go first.
I mean, it's like how much is the final exam weighted? On into your final grade. Like, is it like 25% of the final grade? Like how? Because
you get to choose that.
Because he failed the final exam.
I'm aware.
It's other than he had a slow start to the season, but a lot of that was because they're running 2 tight ends. Likely and Andrews really hadn't been on the field together until like the start of this season a whole lot. So. He took him a while to figure it out. I think he performed. I mean, he had an excellent regular season. He was everything that you expect Mark Andrews to be, setting franchise records all year. I will probably go. I'll go C- because of
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
He failed the final exam. Like it was.
Whoa.
It was, and I'm gonna weight that as like 25.
This is the furthest apart we're gonna be on a grade. Like again, acknowledging that, and he did right. Also remembering it was one game and we're giving a whole season grade. I don't think it could be anything worse than a B-. Mark Andrews on the whole was really good this season. I would almost flirt with a B. That if you said, hey, what was his grade before that final game? It was an arguable A-, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so if I drop it a bit because of the final game, I still don't think I can go a whole lot further than 10 points, right? So if I dropped it from a 92 to an 82, then he's a B-. So B- is where I'm at for Mark Andrews. I get it.
It was a tough.
It was an awful way
Buffalo
for the season
game.
to come to an end.
Yeah.
This one will be quick. 57.2% of the snaps for Derrick Henry, who is obviously an A+.
He did fumble in Pittsburgh.
Thank you.
I guess an A+.
Yeah, he's an A+.
That was pretty good.
Not a question about that whatsoever. Isaiah Likely, 56.4% of the snaps.
Isaiah Likely, he was also pretty good. I mean, like given his role, I don't know how much more you expect to ask of him. I guess get your toe in bounds. Like, is that how much you hold that against him?
That would have been good.
I'll go. He was a really good blocker, like in the run game. I'll go A even.
A?
Yeah.
Wow.
Likely had a great year.
He had a really good year. I don't disagree with that. I was leaning towards B+. I was leaning that he and Bateman would probably be at about the same like 89 would be about
guess
where I am for both of them.
Yeah, I mean, Likely I feel like was a very big factor in the run game, and I really enjoy watching Isaiah Likely play football, and
I love Isaiah
really
Likely.
huge games, and if he could have kept his toe in bounds, maybe he's an A+ guy. I don't know. But
I just, to me, the two of them were kind of about the same. It would be hard. Like if somebody said, hey, well, maybe Bateman was an 89 and Likely was a 90, and that's how he's an.
Maybe I had lower expectations, I guess, coming in for Likely. Like I still thought
I
this
did
was
not. After what
is
happened last season, to me, this was going to be a star year for Isaiah Likely. And some of my disappointment was that it still felt like there were times where you just couldn't get both of them involved. Now, again, is that on him? Is that going back to the thing I said about Todd Monken earlier? I don't know.
I guess I at the end, after last season I hadn't completely bought in. I mean, now I'm completely bought in. He's a star. He does
funny you say that.
everything.
I was even higher on him. I think like what he did when Mark Andrews was out. I had like romantic feelings. I'm like, this guy. Maybe I'll give him an A-. Maybe I'll say he's a 90.
Maybe more of last year. I was thinking it was just more of a system tight end, and at this point
to me he was looking prototypical to me. I was like, this guy's a star. Pat Ricard played 39% of the Ravens' offensive snaps. It's very difficult to grade a fullback.
How many snaps did he play?
He played 39%. I think he's an A.
Does he miss blocks? I don't know.
I don't remember any. I think he does his job, and they sure ran the ball. I think he's an A.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, A. We'll go A.
All right. Nelson Aguilar played 37.8% of the snaps.
I mean, did we really expect him to were we expecting him to be Odell Beckham, or I'm not really sure. What were his final? Because again, Pro Football Reference.
He didn't have much. He didn't do much this season.
I mean, he had a couple big catches. That 2-minute, that final minute drive against Pittsburgh in the playoff game. Had a catch in there to get him across midfield.
Finished with 14 catches for 231 yards and 2 touchdowns.
What you're not asking much more from Nelson Aguilar. So if something. We're not blaming the wide receivers for the loss in Buffalo. If there had been some somehow a significant injury to Bateman or Flowers, then certainly his
just give him a grade already. We're spending way too much time on Nelson Aguilar.
B, right?
He's a C to me.
Okay,
he's a passing grade, but he just
right. I know
he didn't do enough for me to be able to say anything. He's a passing grade. You got to see. Next up, Justice Hill. Justice Hill is an interesting one, right? Because this is where you make the case of, even though he played only 37.3% of the snaps, he was really impactful in those 37.3% of the snaps.
The only, I'm trying to think of bad things Justice Hill did. I guess that Peyton Wilson strip interception in Pittsburgh,
that to me was just a guy making an unbelievable play. That's not really on Justice Hill to me.
Yeah, I don't know.
B+. If you said it's an A-, I'd listen to it, but I just think there's a limit to how significant the grade can be.
I agree. I do see him more in that Bateman, he did everything and maybe a little bit more than what you expected. So yeah, B+ as well for Justice.
For Tylan Wallace, played 24.7% of the snaps,
and we're grading him.
Made some big plays.
Yeah. And we're grading him as a wide receiver?
You can do the complete.
Okay.
Yeah, you can bring it all up.
Because there were shaky.
Yep, there sure were.
It's definitely. He also had down in balls at the 1.
Mm-hmm.
Those were big too.
Mm-hmm.
He's probably a C.
I was going to say C+. I'm somewhere between B-. Because you remember the big plays, you remember
the Cincinnati game, that Thursday night.
that one was game changing. And he did. He had a propensity. Whenever the ball was thrown his way, he had a propensity for making catch. I guess he's a B- to me.
Really?
Yeah.
I'll stick with C. Yeah. I mean, I think he's in the 70s.
Andrew Voorhees played 24% of the snaps. I go first.
Sure.
Man, you hate doing this, but it's a D+ for Andrew Voorhees. Someone that you really thought had a chance to, this was the steal. This was the guy the Ravens had all the confidence in. This is why they were willing to, turn things over offensive line-wise. I'm not down on Andrew Voorhees potentially still being a football player, but he certainly was not anything close to the guy that you were hoping that that was going to prove how brilliant the Ravens were for drafting him. D+.
Yeah, you're probably right. It's tough to go under the.
It's probably just a D, and I'm like trying to make it. I'm like softening it by calling it a D+. Like it probably is just a D.
Yeah, it was because he was not.
It's a D.
He was not. Yeah, he was not effective when he played. He got up to 24. So was that all? When did they? I mean, it was after week 2, right? Or that they?
Don't ask me questions about like if it requires me spending any time on Pro Football Reference. We got to come on.
You're right. D. I'll go D as well.
All right. And Charlie Kohler is the final offensive player that played more than 20% of the snaps.
I mean, he was pretty good. I'll go B- for Charlie Kohler.
Yeah, I'm somewhere,
it's
but
not like
how do you judge someone that wasn't really all that impactful? But is it because of that? B- is probably about right. That's probably the best way to go about judging Charlie Kohler.
So Voorhees played the first 3 games before he was pulled.
All right. The only other offensive players that played this season, Tez Walker played 57 snaps, Ben Cleveland 49, Josh Jones 46, Deontay Johnson 39, Josh Johnson 36, Keaton Mitchell 36, Rasheen Ali 29, Anthony Miller 9, Deontay Hardy 6, Chris Collier, remember him? He played 3 offensive snaps this season.
Him.
Steven Sims apparently didn't play an offensive snap until the postseason.
Wow.
Yeah, like when I saw he was at 0, I was like, really? But then I remembered it was only because they had the regular season numbers. All right, very good. Those are our offensive grades. Why don't we do these special teams grades real quickly?
What'd you give Kohler? That was the one I missed.
B- as well. Okay. And we're not going to do all the individual players special teams wise because the specialists, the 2, right? Like just so we have them. Jordan Stout and Justin Tucker. So we'll start Jordan Stout.
I mean, nothing that really stood out. Like
Nothing that stood out positively.
No. Anytime he pinned one inside like the 5, it felt like it was getting help from his coverage team there. Yeah, Stout was not very. I'll probably go C. I guess you knock it down to a C-. I mean, like the whole Tucker missing kicks that, like how much, like Tucker obviously took full responsibility for all that, but I mean, how much of it is you got a young holder who may not have been getting down each hold perfect, the exact way that Tucker needs it put down. I'll go C- for Jordan Stout.
It's a D to me. I mean, like I just thought he was bad. Like I thought this was a serious weakness. Now, look, they might internally say we have different expectations and we wanted him to do certain things in certain spots, and so we're not disappointed by it, but it was in no ways was Jordan Stout a weapon for this team. He's a D. And then Justin Tucker, who, again, it's a different feeling where, like, Jordan Stout to me is a D, and I think they should look at a different punter even for next. I think it's beyond just – my gut is Jordan Stout's their punter next year because he's got another year under contract, and they'll see – like, let's make it one more year to see what they have. I think they should bring in competition for Jordan Stout. Justin Tucker to me also has to be a D.
Wow.
Like, there's just no way around it. Like, for the season that he had, it's probably being polite to give him a D for the total of the season. But that doesn't mean to me that I'm done with Justin Tucker. It just means that this season, Justin Tucker was not good.
Yeah.
It's a D.
I feel because I'm thinking C- for Tucker as well, and I think you are right. Like Stout had a worse season than Justin Tucker, and you know
I don't even know that he had a worse season than Justin Tucker.
I'm gonna go C-. I don't like giving them the same exact grade. So am I allowed to go back and give Stout a D+? All right, C- for both of them.
All right, we got to do the defensive players. Do we take a break or let's just roll through them and then we'll take a break before we talk to Emory Hunt. All right, defensive players. So again, we'll base it on the same numbers who played enough snaps. The cutoff will be Tre'Davious White played 13% of the snaps. All right, let's just go through it. Let's get it. The highest percentage of defensive snaps were played by.
What was the percentage?
92.4.
Roquan
was third at 87.5.
Hamilton.
Second, 92.1.
Like the build-up I'm doing here? Wow. Stevens.
92.4% of the snaps. 1,047 defensive snaps for Brandon Stevens.
He wants to start on him?
And that would be you. You get to go first.
I mean, I don't think he was very good. I don't think he had a good season. I think other teams realized, took him longer than I think it should have to realize that he was not very good. I'm gonna give him an F. I don't think Stevens had a good. I mean, maybe do I? I mean,
whoa.
He stayed on the. I guess he stayed on the field.
But this is the problem.
All those.
I know what you're saying, but if he did still play the man, he just didn't play the ball
ever.
I understand, and so I can't. I
can't
can't
give 50% of the job.
I can't. You can't play this number of snaps if you're really an F. Like if Deontay Johnson was an F, right? Like I know what you're saying. It's a D+.
I'm sticking with F.
You already said it. I'm not making you take it back. It's a D+. It's a. Yeah, that's all it is. It's a D+. Kyle Hamilton next up on the list, and Kyle Hamilton to me
A+, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm between an A and an A+, right? Like, because there is the one nitpicky thing would you would say you wish that he would have made more big impact plays, but that's not kind of what they were asking him to do as the season went on.
Dropped the interception in Cleveland, like you can factor that in.
That was a game changer. I am leaning more towards it. Like to me, Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry are obvious A+. I think Kyle Hamilton's an A.
I'm gonna stick with A+. I mean, yeah, he was. You changed what you were asking of him to do. I think he was making big plays in the first half of the season, and then when the calculus changed and you moved him backward, he did exactly what he was supposed to do there as well. So.
Roquan.
Because Roquan had to do more, without a stronger, linebacker beside him.
No, I thought Patrick Queen stunk. I thought he.
Well, I mean, he was better than Malik Harrison and Trent Simpson and I don't know about Chris Board. That's close.
Oh,
yeah,
is it?
That's close.
Okay.
Roquan had he still had a really good season. I mean, he there wasn't a.
Give him a grade.
B+.
He's a B. He was a B. Just not the type of impact plays that you're used to Roquan Smith making. He was a B. He certainly by no means was bad, but he was a B. And again, some of that I acknowledge is expectations for Roquan Smith. Marlon Humphrey next on the list, and to me, Marlon Humphrey was also an A. He was really good this year.
Yeah. I'm trying to think, the highest graded defensive guys. Yeah, Hamilton's going to be A+. I guess, I don't think anyone else is going to get an A+ for Marlon as well.
Ardarius Washington next on the list. There's an interesting, right? There's an interesting. Ardarius Washington ultimately played 64.1% of the snaps.
Wow, that's I felt like he didn't play quite that many, but and he was certainly, his presence was felt every time, definitely in the second half of the season. I don't know. Like, I'm trying to think, like, what were his mistakes, if any? Like,
give him a grade.
I don't think I can go A+. I'll go A for.
I gave him an A-, right?
Washington.
Like that. Again, it just feels like it's unfair for me to say that I thought he was as good as Kyle Hamilton and Marlon Humphrey, but he was really good. So, A- to me for Ardarius Washington. Nate Wiggins, I was stunned by this. Played 60% of the snaps. I thought that number was lower. I was surprised that the number was that high. And to me, Nate Wiggins was a C+. He showed a lot of things, but ultimately, maybe that's unfair.
And how many first
maybe
round,
it's a B- is really what it is. It's a B-.
That's where I was going as well. I'm going to go B- too. Like, he was drafted in the first round. You have high expectations for first-round guys.
It's tricky because you look at, Cooper DeJean, right?
Yeah,
you look at some of these other guys that were drafted in this class in particular, and I get it. Nate Wiggins had a little bit of a bumpy ride with the accident before the season, and it took. But and I think that was part of why I was leaning towards C+. Is like, boy, it's tough to not notice what a couple of these other guys that were drafted and.
It takes
Cooper DeJean was behind him.
Yeah. Like Cooper DeJean is
it DeJean or DeJean?
It's DeJean. Pretty sure it's DeJean. They call him Coop, so you just call him Coop. Not many corners to have immediate impacts. I mean, I guess Quinyon Mitchell as well. I guess maybe Philly's the only place that knows how to draft corners.
I mean, Terry Arnold was pretty good too.
Yeah, Terry Arnold was good.
All of the guys that were drafted, that really is the difficult part about my grade.
Maybe this was just a really good DB class.
All of the guys that were drafted around him.
But the other top 5 corners that we've seen in recent history, like Jeff Okudah and Derek Stingley
well,
is
Jeff
good.
Okudah is a pretty low.
Yeah.
Derek Stingley's very good. What are you doing?
but he didn't have like an immediate impact like
know,
as a top 5 guy like that you might expect.
Kamari Lassiter was really good this year.
B- is my grade for Nate Wiggins.
Okay, I'm probably I said C+ first, and I went to B-. I'm waiver.
You're like right at what 79.5 is where you're
right. Like I think I'm gonna stick at
round up.
C+.
Round up.
I said the first one. C+ is what I'm giving him. That's where it goes. If he's mad, he's mad. Like, catch me outside. I don't mean that at all. Next up on the list, as we continue giving our final Ravens grades, and looking at the defensive side of things, Trenton Simpson played 57.8% of the snaps for the Ravens.
Guy that he definitely had pretty decent expectations for coming into the year. He only played half the snaps. Like that is not living up to what those were, and enough that they felt there were games where they kind of had to completely remove him, from the equation. Like Simpson was probably a
John
C-.
Proctor threw it in the wrong chat. He threw it in our trivia group chat,
did.
but he wants a minute. He thinks that Nate Wiggins should be a B.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, John.
Yeah.
So you can fight. You have to fight him as well.
Because he thinks he played well enough to not be consistently targeted.
Well, when you got Stevens on one side,
yeah, I mean,
why not? Why would you target the guy that's even if he is just
anyway,
if Wiggins was a C?
What'd you say for Trenton Simpson?
I think he's a C.
I gave him a C-.
Yeah.
C- for Trenton Simpson. Again, not me saying I'm writing him off,
right.
but just disappointed because, again, we had elevated expectations for Trenton Simpson. Part of the Patrick Queen thing was like, we really believe Trenton Simpson's ready to step in and be the guy. And some of it was about him. Some of it was just about how good the other options were when they got the opportunity. But it was a disappointment this year. Adafe Owe played 56.1% of the snaps. Adafe Owe was. It's so funny that Drew goes war on Adafe Owe. I thought Adafe Owe was really good. To me,
he was.
I thought it was me first on this one.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
To me, he's in that Isaiah Likely, Rashad Bateman, like B+. B+ for me for Adafe Owe.
I think you're right. Like I think there is still you still want a little bit more from Adafe Owe. Like you want him to be more of kind of an every down guy. Like he what was it? He only played 55%. Is that what she said?
56%.
56.
Yes.
Okay. So like I feel like he should, as a first round guy, he should be finding ways to get on the field more. But I do think you're right. I still think on the whole, I would say Bateman had like a better double-digit sacks is pretty good. Like I'll go B+ as well.
All right. Next up, Kyle Van Noy at 55.6% of the snaps.
I mean, you factor in everything. I'm gonna go an A-.
Like to me, it's between A and A-, right? Like I don't know what more you could possibly want from Kyle Van Noy. I mean, if you want to say consistency,
he finished with 12.5 sacks. Is that right?
But my God, like Kyle Van Noy's an A. Like it's unreal what Kyle Van Noy has become in Baltimore. It's a scrap heap. It's insane how good Kyle Van Noy is. I don't know. Really, there's a part of me that wants to lean towards A+, but I didn't give Kyle Hamilton an A+, so I can't give Kyle Van Noy an A+. A is the answer for Kyle Van Noy. Marcus Williams played 53% of the snaps.
I mean, I've already set the bar that I do hand out Fs.
You gave someone an F.
Marcus Williams. How many snaps? You said 50.
He played 53% of the snaps.
50% of the snaps. He was not very good. I'll go F as well.
Wow. It's tough. Marcus Williams was an F. It's the only one I'll give out. He was an F. I mean, it's just.
He's the only one? I think there still might be one more on my list.
I don't know that I could give any of these guys an. Okay, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. Okay, you're right. Never mind. Sorry, I didn't know if he played enough snaps, but he did.
Okay.
Next, Travis Jones, 52 point. Same thing. He played one fewer snap than Marcus Williams. Travis Jones.
He was pretty good.
It's me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Travis Jones was pretty good. B.
I do look at him more of that Owe Bateman range.
Okay.
Like I'm gonna give him a B+. Like no one ran the ball
No, I get it.
on the
Travis
Ravens.
Jones is really good.
Travis Jones, B+.
Tavius Robinson, I'm surprised, played 42.8% of the snaps.
Really? So that was it went from 52 to 42% of the snaps. We just graded Jones. Tavius Robinson. I mean, was that the 3-sack half that he had?
Right, he had that insane, yeah.
He still had a really good seat. Like, there was nothing that you're like, oh man, what is Tavius Robinson doing out there? Only played 40. B- for Tavius Robinson.
Between a B- and a C+ as well. I'm like trying to see where I compare him. I think it's a C+. Like, but there was a year ago he wouldn't have shown up on the register. Like, this was a step up for Tavius Robinson this season. C+. Broderick Washington next at 39.6% of the snaps. Am I first here?
Yeah.
The problem is you're judging him again by a guy that you paid,
exactly,
right? And like that makes this difficult, and everybody, it's a really tough conversation. By the way, I completely skipped over Nnamdi Madubuike. I just realized that.
Oh, he would have been. How many snaps did he played? A lot.
71. We'll get back. Let's do Broderick Washington, then we'll do Nnamdi. Sorry, Nnamdi. Broderick Washington, C. He's a C.
I think you're right. Like, he was when he was on the field, I don't think he was really costing them. Again, that interior D line, no one ran on them. You said I'm gonna go C+.
Okay.
C+.
All right, let's go back to Nnamdi Madubuike at 71%, because I realized as I was saying that, like the thing about getting paid, I'm like, wow, how did we not do Nnamdi Madubuike?
So he would have been after Marlon between
Marlon and Ardarius,
okay.
Yes.
How many sacks did he have?
8, I believe.
And then last year, what did he have last year?
So many questions.
I'm sorry.
Man. You have the internet.
I mean, Pro Football Reference is not working.
I understand, but there are other websites. He had 13 last year. He had 6.5 this year.
He's still he got more attention. He's still, again, big part of that run stopping defense. I think.
Now here's a random number. Like, this is actually kind of wild about Nnamdi Madubuike. So I mentioned he has half as many sacks as he had last season. He had twice as many run stuffs. No, more than that. A year ago, he had 3.5 run stuffs. This year, he had 12.5 run stuffs.
I'm between. I like maybe. His sack numbers, though, they did move elsewhere. Like, Owe ended up getting double-digit sacks. Kyle Van Noy had double-digit sacks.
And he was clearly taking on more double teams.
Yeah.
He was.
I'm between an A- and a B+. Like, I think everything he did probably doesn't show up on the stat sheet week in and week out, like those run stuffs that we haven't heard of until today. I'm gonna go A- for Nnamdi Madubuike.
I'm gonna go B+. Nah, this is tough for me, right? Because like the question is, how do you grade him based on what he's getting paid? And he got paid a boatload of money, and he got paid in a way that like people assumed that he was going to be Chris Jones. And he wasn't Chris Jones, but to your point, he did a lot of really good things. B+, and you said A-. All right, back. Let's try to fly through these if we can. I got to stop trusting this. If I go to another website,
okay.
Like this is
screenshot your whatever you're looking at.
Right.
Pro Football.
If I visit any other website, then Pro Football Reference crashes. It's just not an ideal circumstance for a website.
I'm looking at
PFF.
Malik Harrison
I
next?
got it. Yeah. Malik Harrison's next at 32.8%. And I'm first?
Yes.
Malik Harrison was a step up this season, and someone that you had maybe kind of written off, and now you're like, this guy's a football player. B- for Malik Harrison.
Yeah, obviously had to step up really big in the Chargers game, and that is what stands out most. I think otherwise had a kind of a relatively meh season. I like it wasn't like, because he didn't have I think the expectations that we kind of had for Trenton Simpson coming in, and he didn't necessarily like burn them anywhere, and did step up when they needed him to. When Roquan was hurt for that half a game. I'm gonna go. I'm between C+ and B-. Like, it was. I guess I'll give him I'm gonna give him a C plus.
All right.
For Malik Harrison.
Next, we go Eddie Jackson. Go ahead.
I'm gonna give him an F.
Yes, Eddie Jackson was obviously the other F. He was dreadful. David Ajabo played 24.2% of the snaps. Boy, what a bummer that is. It's a D for David Ajabo. D.
Yeah, I think you're right. It was
a huge bummer.
subpar.
It's a huge bummer.
I'm gonna go D minus.
Okay, that's fine. Michael Pierce played 20.3% of the snaps.
Those were some valuable 20%.
Like this is the thing. Like whenever he was on the field, you're just like, God, is the difference when Michael Pierce is on the field.
Man, Michael Pierce, he's right in that Bateman range, I think. Like OA, B plus. Like he's not a guy that you're paying. He's not a guy that you expect to play 80% of the snaps. Yeah, B plus.
Well, and he also obviously got hurt, and like that's there's a lot going on there. He seemed to pop every time he was on the field. B plus. Brent Urban played 17% of the snaps. I guess that's enough that we can give him a grade.
C.
Or C plus. I would be first, but that's fine. Yeah, C is probably about right. Chris Board played 14.8% of the snaps. Go ahead.
B.
Yeah,
I'm a B.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was. He was really helpful, man. Really helpful to this football team. And Tre'Davious White was the only other one that played significant snaps. He played 152 after he came over in the trade. And C plus.
I can't get into the B range. C plus as well.
All right. Very good. Now, 2 final grades to give out. Defensive coordinator, Zach Orr.
Well, the first, it was almost the first. The first half of the season was not good.
Yep.
And then they were the best defense in football.
Correct. Correct.
And then they hold the Bills to 6 points in the second half of that game, and in the first half, that's for 21 first half points. Like, good field position also didn't help them. B.
I think on the whole it's a C plus. I think if we're taking a total,
I
think if we didn't weight the turnaround more, the total would be a C plus. If you want to say because of the weight of the turnaround, because that means more, then I can understand, bumping that a little bit. But I think if we were really being fair on the whole for the season, Zach Orr was a C plus. So if I gave a little bit of I could join you on a B minus to say, recognizing the impact of the in-season turnaround, I'll bump that grade up. B minus.
All right. You're welcome, Zach. I got you out of the C range.
And the final grade, of course, for the head coach of the Baltimore Ravens, John Harbaugh. The grade for the season, I really thought this was a great season for John Harbaugh. Like, it's amazing to me. A year ago, I actually think the conversation about John Harbaugh was way louder than the conversation was this year. And you could say that's because they were at home, like whatever you want. But like they weren't even as good this year as they were last year. And it was even hard for like the John Harbaugh haters to make a strong argument. Because on the whole, all of the different parts, change in defensive coordinator, losing some of your top defensive assistants.
Yeah.
3/5 of your offensive line gone. Like, on the whole, that all of it came together. I think it was an A minus for John Harbaugh this season.
I think you're right. I'm gonna have to go. Yeah, I was kind of like, he's B plus, and then I wasn't immediately thinking about all the staff turnover that they had, which is
you mentioned obviously the untimely passing of Joe D earlier,
and they obviously did have some. It was a rough
road
early on.
He also had Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry.
That helps.
That props up a lot of these things.
But you have disgruntled back end your safeties that you paid money like Deontay Johnson. Who knows what actually happened with Deontay Johnson, and that really did not balloon into anything else other than I guess what it was. Somehow the locker room was still like, we can't wait to have him back. Like, I think you're right. A minus.
Right,
A minus for Harbaugh.
Those are final
doing
grades.
DaCosta too, or
Do you want to? No, we're not going to do that. We're going to do everything on field. There you go. There's the exercise. We'll get that up at GlennClarkRadio.com. Stop it. Shut up. We've done plenty here. We've done entirely too much. In fact, I just realized this is the sheet that I have my. I need this. You can have it in a minute.
I think I got them all.
Hey, today's show also brought to you by the print issue of Press Box, which is still available for free at your neighborhood Royal Farms. They have hundreds of locations around town where you find Press Box. But we're getting into the nitty-gritty for this very special Best of issue with our Mo Gabba Sports Person of the Year, Lamar Jackson, on the cover. Go get it today, that Best of print issue of Press Box. You can read it all at PressBoxOnline.com/bestof. All right. Still to come, we're going to head down to Mobile and chat with Emory Hunt. He's at the Senior Bowl, our first NFL draft segment of the year. We'll get a tidbit. We'll get tubular. That's on the way. It is a Thursday edition of Glenn Clark Radio.
COVID-19 and flu viruses are circulating in Maryland. But don't worry. Protection is within arm's reach. Protect your health with this year's COVID-19 and flu shots. It's safe and convenient to get them both at the same time. Flex your protection. For more information, visit health.maryland.gov/vaccines.
This message paid for by the Maryland Department of Health.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Driving in Maryland? Did you know an Easy Pass from DriveEasyMD.com can save you time and money? Of course you did, because you are a thrifty driver. An antenna reads your Easy Pass transponder and automatically deducts the toll from your Easy Pass account. There, you just saved money with Easy Pass, all without slowing or receiving a notice in the mail. Well done, thrifty driver, well done. Get your Easy Pass at DriveEasyMD.com.
The votes were all counted, and the results are official. Royal Farms was named #1 for food in the USA Today 10 Best poll, receiving more votes than any other convenience store chain in America. The next time you want to get some good food fast, doesn't it make sense to go to Royal Farms? Voted best in the USA and home of world-famous chicken. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
Contrary to what some people believe, I actually like this guy when he sleeps. Glenn Clark, talking sports.
I don't know what's going on over here. So we completely missed Namdi Matabike, and then during break, Griffin's like, did we give a grade to Tyler Linderbaum? No, we didn't. So final part of grades, Tyler Linderbaum.
Like the snapping was
That's
an
problem,
issue.
right?
He was
Like,
a pretty good blocker.
He was a very good blocker.
You loved running
He was an
behind
outstanding
him.
blocker.
They convert. I mean, they didn't run the tush push too many times, but they converted when they did.
Mm-hmm.
And the snap in the Buffalo game, snaps
constant.
Yeah. I think he was a C+.
That's where I am.
Yeah.
Like, and that feels
you have
tough.
expectations.
That feels tough, right? Because he was. Maybe I'm going to talk myself into a B- for Tyler Linderbaum.
Because he was
I'm
a
looking
good
at
blocker.
Some of the other guys, like Fa'alele is a C+. Okay, then Tyler Linderbaum can't be a C+. Because he was more valuable to the Ravens than.
But when you have, like, what were the expectations with Fa'alele?
I understand what you're saying. But you're about to give Tyler Linderbaum a worse grade than you gave, because you gave Fa'alele a B-.
Did Fa'alele, cause several fumbles?
I'm going B-.
Although you're right, Linderbaum, maybe that was part of Linderbaum's plan, and that's like the Cincinnati bad snap here, so Lamar has to fall on the ground to cover the ball, get up.
I'm going
B-
the defender for Linderbaum. You can stick with C.
I'm sticking with C+.
Proctor had a couple. I apologize, because then when he switched to the correct chat, I was missing Proctor. Like, when he was in the wrong chat, I was seeing it. It was popping up. When he was in the right chat, he said, still waiting for Oweh to elevate his game to a Pro Bowl level, also a B. I think Oweh was closer to a Pro Bowl level this year than anybody realized.
Well, now anyone's like Drake May's Pro Bowl level.
Fair.
Won 2 games.
Who's available?
I guess, to be fair, Tyler Huntley was a Pro Bowl as well.
Yes, correct. And I love this analogy. Kyle Van Noy is the Guardians of the Galaxy. And I remember this feeling on the first Guardians of the Galaxy. Your expectations have to be so much lower for an aged edge rusher than a first-round pick, and he performs the way he has. Dude, when the first Guardians of the Galaxy came out, they were doing the big push. Like, Disney was going all, and we were just like, what is this? Like, why would any of us care about this film? And then you go see it, and it's the most joy that you've ever experienced. You're like, how did they do this? I get it. That is a very good analogy. He had a B- from Adebike, and he also agreed on an A- for John Harbaugh. We'll get him up at GlennClarkRadio.com a little bit later on. It is time for our first NFL draft segment of the year. We'll do these weekly between now and the NFL draft. It is Senior Bowl week. They're on the practice field right now, so we agreed that we could do this a little bit earlier with Emory Hunt, our guy from CBS Sports, right here on GCR. Well, it's time for our first NFL draft segment of 2025. Joining us now, a man who I always love his work and catching up with him. I also happen to know that while he's down in Mobile right now, he's, I think, hit like if you just got, like, I think a group of community college football players together and said, we're holding an all-star game, he would be there to scout it. This is what he does. This is his time of year. He is from CBS and Mr. Football Game Plan himself. He's our friend Emory Hunt, and he's back with us now here on GCR. Emory, it's Glenn. What's going on, man? How are you?
What's good, Glenn? I'm doing fine, man. As always, appreciate you bringing me on. And at the spot 7 on this All-Star Game circuit, one more to go. But we're at the tail end of this All-Star Game journey that I've been on since May, to be honest.
Jeez. All right. Let me run a couple of things by you as we start. I want to know, as you're at the Senior Bowl specifically, what's the group that you look at and you say, man, this is a group it's just standing out as being particularly deep. Like, if that's where your needs are in this draft, there's going to be a lot there for you.
I would probably say running back, not biased, but there's a ton of backs here that are just like extremely good starting level backs. And just throughout a different position, it's probably going to be, I have to sandwich these guys together, but O-line, D-line, I like to say it like that because the point of attack group looks to be a very good one as well.
Okay, so I asked now a bit more specifically because I know we're all hot and bothered about running backs. The Ravens are pretty good there in that department. They're all right at running back. I think there's a fascinating conversation coming for the Ravens about the future of Ronnie Stanley. And I wonder if like there is left tackle, right tackle, players that are on that edge of the first round that you think are plug and play, whether, again, it's Roger Rosengarten moving to left tackle and the Ravens looking for a right tackle, or is there like legit left tackle type of talent that's available late in round 1?
Well, yeah, that's the issue the Ravens always have is, you're picking late in the draft, which is a good thing. But at the end of the day, it takes away a Will Campbell opportunity. So you're not going to get arguably one of the top tackles or the kid out of Texas. But if you're going to pick late and you trust what you have and you trust your development of players, there's a bunch of guys that are in play. I know this is probably, not the spot that you would take a guy, but he's been having a fantastic week. And that's Carson Vincent out of Alabama A&M.
Okay.
Just outstanding footwork, measured really well. And some people probably thought he was going to be a guard. You come from the FCS level, but the fact that he's been out here holding his own consistently against premier edge guys at left tackle, it's been impressive to see. So that's one guy to me that, just to bring up a name because of how, he has played this week. But, you think about Josh Connolly of Oregon. another one that's really good that he could be a potential first round guy. I just like that he's been able to consistently show up each and every day, do what he needs to do, and really hold his own too, in terms of like pass pro, the one-on-one drills and team drills. So Conley will be someone that's probably a little bit more realistic in late round one, but someone that if you want to swing for the fences in round two or something like that, Carson Vincent to me has been really standing out.
You bring up Connerly. I know one of the big stories this week down in Mobile was his matchup with Mike Green from Marshall, and that's another position where the Ravens, we assume, are going to have need going into the draft. And the consensus has been that he is a bit of a late first-round guy. What has stood out to you about Mike Green, not just at the Senior Bowl, but as a prospect overall?
Well, just the fact that he has good twitch off the edge, and he's been, showing the speed to power that you want to see from guys coming off the edge, and he knows how to finish. A lot of times you see guys that either have a variety of moves, or guys may have good strength off the ball, or guys that may have good speed around the edge, but they never finish. So you have one part of the traits that you need, but not the finishing part, which is most important. And I think he does a great job in finishing. And I think that's where he has stood out on tape. And he's had a couple of good days here so far here in Mobile with the, day 3 coming tomorrow. But I just feel like this is someone, played in a very good conference, the Sun Belt Conference. And, you're going to see a lot of downhill run game there. So he's fitting the run really well. And a lot of teams in the Sun Belt also spread the field and want to throw the ball a lot. And so he's able to showcase that. So I think that's why a lot of times the conference these guys come from, number one, and the fact that he's been at a school consistently kind of helps you develop over the course of time a little bit faster than some of these guys that may have been playing at a Power 5 school.
He is Emory Hunt. He's with us here on GCR down at the Senior Bowl. Emory, I wonder too, are there other edges, whether they're there, guys that you look at that you say these are impactful, again, day one plug-and-play types of early round picks that I think are names that maybe Ravens fans should be aware of as we move deeper into this draft season process?
There are 3 guys that really stood out. One being Shamar Stewart. He's a guy that probably can play across the front out of Texas A&M, and his burst off the ball combined with his power and his ability to be disruptive is just tremendous. Probably more of a 5 tech, but even then, he's someone that can get kind of that good pressure that you want. Sort of in the mold of Cam Jordan that plays for the New Orleans Saints, someone like that. Kyle Kennard out of South Carolina, we saw him all throughout the season and how well he was in really showcasing that length and athleticism. And Olu Aladejo out of UCLA, I remember getting familiar with his game. I watched the UCLA-Iowa game live, and UCLA gave Iowa all they could handle up front at the point of attack, which is unheard of considering that's Iowa. And it was because of the D-line, it was because of their linebackers. A couple of the linebackers I've seen on the course of my All-Star game travels, but I saw Oladejo here, and when they kicked him down inside, he was able to win versus the guard, obviously, had good twitch and closing speed off the edge. And finishing the play on the outside. So someone like that to me is where you can say, okay, I can understand if they took him late round 1, because again, this is a good O-line, D-line group, and to watch the competitiveness on both sides of the ball here at the Senior Bowl has been impressive.
Emory, I saw you on Twitter. Shout out Quincy Riley from Louisville. I wanted to talk a little bit about the cornerbacks, as again, we know the Ravens, that they can't have too many, and we're certain that Brandon Stevens isn't going to be a part of the equation moving forward. Can you give us the thumbnail not only on Quincy Riley, but some of the cornerbacks that have stood out most to you this week?
Yeah, Quincy Riley's been excellent, man. He's been well coached in college. You can see that because he's got great technique, great patience, kind of understands spacing and patience in terms of like when to be aggressive, when to play the ball. So he's not going to get overly anxious and grabby. And so he's just been, textbook cornerback play that you want to see coming out this week. And Upton Stout out of Western Kentucky, he may be a bit undersized, but man, he's almost like his name slips my mind. The corner the Ravens had out of Temple that was a short
Tavon
corner.
Young, yeah.
Avon Young that you can trust on the outside because he understands how to press. He understands how to, mirror the receiver, and is super aggressive. I've been super impressed with what he's been able to do out here this week. And it's just been great to see a guy that you kind of want to pigeonhole because of his height and stature. Say, okay, that's a slot guy. Now, that may end up being true, but at the end of the day, he's been proving that he can hold his own on the outside, playing in space, and that's always a positive thing to see.
The wide receiver group, I'm still obsessed with the idea of finding a prototype type of receiver, and I don't think it's going to be round one. I think the Ravens they've got their top 2 spots taken care of, but I still feel like they could use one more of that type of guy, and I think somebody that could play immediately. Who stood out to you in this wide receiver group?
Well, just based off what they probably need, they need someone that has a little bit more size that can go up and get it. Been impressed with Jack Besh. The fact that number one that he's out here,
right?
Number one.
For people that don't know his story, his brother died in the New Orleans tragedy, and I know that's been one of the kind of emotional parts of Senior Bowl week.
Right, because having had that happen to me before, and having to go and play a game, later that week I understand the mindset, and to see him out here, and obviously his situation is on a bigger stage with more at stake in terms of this is a job interview. So that in and of itself alone helps him pass with flying colors. But the play has been tremendous, and he's been excellent as always, like he was early in his career at LSU. So love what I'm seeing out of him. And Daquan Felton out of Virginia Tech. I remember calling one of his games early in his career where he was at Norfolk State. I was like, oh man, this is cool. Norfolk State has another receiver. This dude's going to be a pro. And then later on that offseason, after the season, he transfers. So not surprised, because he clearly looked like big fish in a small pond. But he has that both guys are bigger receivers that can go up and get the football, that can be a quarterback's best friend. And when you think about what Baltimore has, you have someone like a Zay Flowers that's a darty guy that can get in and out of his cuts really well. You have someone like Rashad Bateman who can at times go and play above the rim.
Sure.
But I feel like these two dudes are legit consistent at playing above the rim. They rather play up top as opposed to playing underneath. And I think when you have that combined with the Bateman, combined with the Zay Flowers, now you have a well-rounded receiving core.
There's a few guys with local connections, and I do want to talk to you about another guy that you wrote about at CBS this week from the East-West game. But the 2 Maryland guys, Ty Felton, Dante Trader, I think Ty Felton seems like he's pretty safely knowing he's going to hear his name called. But can you give me a thumbnail on those 2 guys? And then Rayon Lane from Navy, who to me is a hell of a player. I just never know what the real likelihood is of someone like that hearing their name called in the draft.
Yeah, with Lane, you want to know, you're right, because with Navy, I feel like they change the rule every year, right? This year, they're able to get drafted and go play. Then next year, they got to, do their 2-year commitment. So it's always tough, but let's just say he does play. I thought he put together some really good tape out there this season. And, in terms of watching, the other guys out there that you talked about, Trader, and how well he played, to me, I thought safeties are always tough in these games because, a lot of safety play requires continuity, understanding who your personnel is, knowing what their strengths and weaknesses are. And that's always tough for a safety in an all-star game setting, because at the end of the day, man, I just met these dudes this week.
Right.
And so it's always tough for those guys. But Lane, to me, to your point, he had a really good day today. On Wednesday, I believe this is Wednesday. All these days starting to run together. He had a really good day. You saw some of the footwork, some of the athleticism that he had and displayed. And Felton is super shifty, man. And there's a bunch of guys that are like Felton, to where, you can see them getting in and out of breaks, and you can see them causing problems at the top of the route. And it's always hard to distinguish. I can see how a scout's job changes from what we do here on the media side of things, because if you have a bunch of guys that kind of play like Felton and are of the same size and stature, quickness, all of those things, the separator becomes what type of kid is he? What type of work ethic he has. And we on the media side won't know that. And so, from all accounts, he is someone that's checking those boxes, and that could be the separator between him and a bevy of receivers that are built the same way, run the same way, and look the same way.
So I saw over at CBSSports.com that you did your report from the Shrine Bowl, and one of the names that you brought up, and admittedly it was specifically about smaller college guys, but Carter Runyon from Towson, who to me really does look the part. I don't know how easy his path is going to be to trying to get into the mix, but he did stand out to you while you were down there.
Well, full disclosure, I called their game this year against Monmouth.
Yeah.
And so I got to see him in a live setting and just watching him and watching how he plays. I was like, man, this guy, he blocks really well. He's physical. There's always something that stands out in this day and age from tight ends because nobody wants to block. And so at the Shrine game, you get to see his athleticism and him run routes and him read zone coverage on the fly, him use his hands, catching traffic. Like, man, he is looking extremely consistent, which is always what you want to see. Who gets better every day? Who, if you're going to stay the same from day one to day three, your day one better be excellent. And so I felt like he was trending in the right direction, getting better every day, becoming now more of a guy that quarterbacks, sought out and went to with the football. And I thought that was impressive for him because, again, what we saw in the game against Monmouth definitely checked out here against upper level competition. That's also what you want to see when you're talking about these small college guys.
No question about it. Emory Hunt, we could do this for another hour, and you know that I'm going to be in touch a few more times, but let's make sure that we plug up. I know you're working on the draft guide for people that don't know about it and need to know about it. Where can they find out more and maybe go ahead and get the pre-order in?
Yeah, get the pre-order in now, man. It's every year I put out the largest draft guide in existence. And when I say I'm not lying because it's over 1,000 individual scouting reports. So it doesn't matter if it's the guy that's in for rookie minicamp from Division III North Central, D'Angelo Hardy, who was with the Ravens. We had a scout report on him. And so you can go and pre-order that now at footballgameplan.com/2025 draft guide. And what's cool about it is I get DMs all the time from players that are either coming into the draft or have another year, always asking, am I going to be in the draft guide? Am I going to be in it? So it's pretty cool to see that. It shows that players respect the stuff that you put out there, and everybody wants to be in it. But, at some point I got to cut the number off. But, at footballgameplan.com/2025 draft guide.
To be clear, Emory Hunt would have made the Football Game Plan draft guide, correct?
Absolutely would have made it because, again, no stone left unturned. And we're talking about all these schools. And there's some gems there, man. Like, I know I'm going to find a Frostburg State guy. I know I'm going to find a Salisbury guy, so a Seagull. So just to add some Maryland flavor to it, there's always going to be somebody from somewhere that no one's talking about that's going to be in this guide.
You can, of course, follow him as well at FBall Game Plan and check him out, CBS Sports HQ. Emory, you're the best, brother. Appreciate you, man. Let's talk real soon, all right?
Appreciate you. Thanks for having me on, Glenn.
And not every week with Emory, although there's no question that he'll end up doing another one with us before too long, but we'll be doing it every week between now and the NFL draft as this is the way it goes. We'll be getting to know these guys, trying to figure out, and obviously as the Ravens start making some decisions, like at left tackle or tight end or some of these other things, we'll get a clearer picture of what their needs might be going into the draft. But appreciate Emory Hunt taking the time for us. Coming up Friday, February 21st at Martin's West, the Brigance Brigade Winter Soiree. Great food, live music. Jimmy Charles will be there dancing. Some celebrity appearances and a tremendous live auction. Just a great night to lift up the Brigance Brigade Foundation and the incredible work that they do for those that are fighting ALS and to continue honoring and celebrating a true hero in our community, O.J. Brigance. You can find out more about the Winter Soiree and go ahead and get your tickets, make your plans to be a part of it by going to brigancebrigade.org. We'll come back in, get a tidbit and two-bit, or wrap it up.
We've already hit our 3 breaks.
Are you sure?
I am, because we before we talked to Bruce Weber, took a break. Then we broke after Bruce Weber.
Did we?
We did our grades.
And then we took a final break?
Yeah.
I don't believe you. I'm not saying that's the Will Ferrell thing.
Oh, okay.
I don't believe you. Well, fine then. What do you want to do? You want to do tidbit and tubular then? God, over
guess
here.
So. Well, we haven't done our Pro Bowl games.
Yeah, we haven't. Okay, so you want to do tidbit and tubular then?
Roquan pulled out.
You want to do tidbit and tubular then? Is that what you want to do?
Yeah. I guess we might as well.
There were two things that I had on my. So Rita was going hard the other night that hey, you just got to move the Pro Bowl back to Hawaii. I'm sure there would be a couple of guys that would be more inclined to participate if they moved the Pro Bowl back to Hawaii. One of the problems right now, they don't have a stadium. Hawaii is playing on campus in a Northwestern style pop-up stadium. And maybe for the Pro Bowl, that's all you need. You don't need more than 15,000 people to be at the Pro Bowl, but they do still sell tickets to this thing. Probably.
How much they cost?
What's that?
How much? The Pro Bowl games, they sell tickets
for the flag football game. I don't know what it would cost to go. I
see if I can't find it.
Her point is well taken that you are more likely to get someone to go because it's in Hawaii, but it's never going to be. You're never going to get the bulk of these guys to choose to participate, particularly the guys that lose in the playoffs. These guys suffer heartbreaking playoff losses, and you're like, hey, dude, go back out there and be chipper and play. You're not going to get that. What, you want to go play dodgeball?
I think Marlon went down there.
Marlon.
Did Zay go? I feel it. Or did Zay pull out? I can't remember.
I mean, he was just hurt.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I couldn't tell you. It's really difficult to get these guys.
He was obviously excited about it.
Yeah, it's his first one, so he'd be more inclined to go to do it for the first time.
Standing alongside Drake May.
Marlon might be inclined to go for the sake of getting content for his podcast or something. I mean that. That might be legitimately something that he thought about.
Zay Flowers did. I don't know I guess it was because of injury, but Brian Thomas replaced him.
Yeah, I mean Brian Thomas was a hell of a player. Look, man, it's just what it is. Guys who lose in the playoffs are not going to have a lot of incentive to want to go show up and put a smile on their face and be silly at a Pro Bowl. It's unlikely. For certain guys that don't make as much money, Pat Ricard going to the Pro Bowl wouldn't surprise me at all. Why wouldn't he go? Try to soak up as much as he can that makes him marketable and improves his brand. But for these guys that don't need that, just a tough sell, no matter where it is. Again, maybe more likely in Hawaii. The idea of getting a free Hawaiian vacation out of it. Her point is most of these guys live in Florida anyway, so why the hell would they care about spending a week in Orlando? And she's not wrong. I mean, I don't know if they have a deal where everybody's family can go to Disney for the week or something like that. There's probably incentives to try to get guys to participate, but it's just going to be like this. It's a different era. Telling these guys we'll pay you, it's okay, I made a lot of money this year. I don't really need that. It's tough. It's a tough sell, and that's the way it's going to go. And it's not even at one point when it was a football game, there was something to be said for people watching the football game, but there's not even a football game involved. It's over, Jack. It's just over. Whatever they're doing, that's the best you're going to get. Adam Silver apparently said in an interview that he is leaning, he likes the idea of the NBA going to 10-minute quarters because he thinks that trying to make it a 2-hour game is a better concept for television, as you see with college basketball, where the game
until the final 2 minutes, yeah.
Right, but in the NBA in regular season, they're not fouling the way that they do in college basketball to stretch it out for forever. That's just not part of the game. No is my simple answer. I get it. This baseball, it's been a massive win for baseball to emphasize shortening the games. But they did it in legitimate ways. They did it in adding a pitch clock. But it doesn't take away any of the baseball. You're not getting less baseball by adding in a pitch clock. They did it in, fewer pitching changes. They got rid of things that weren't related to action. Getting less basketball. Are you going to charge me less money for the tickets? Because I'm going to guess no.
Well,
I'm going to guess
the
Wizards
might. The Wizards might.
Yeah, the Wizards can't charge for tickets.
LeBron's coming to town tonight, so they are
that's
charging
true,
tickets
right, for this game. Yes,
Yeah.
this game they're charging for. The rest of them, they're like, what are you guys doing today? You feel like it's like trying to get people to fill up a television audience for these talk
want a chance to win a
shows.
gift card?
Right. Yeah, maybe somebody will miss free throws. You can get a free Chipotle burrito or whatever they do. I don't know. Anyway, no is my simple answer. I get what you think you're saying, but no. You don't have a time of game problem. You've got other problems. You do have the regular season doesn't matter. No one cares about the regular season. And maybe the unspoken part from Adam Silver is like, maybe if we shorten the games, there's a higher likelihood of players playing in more of the regular season games, but it's a hard sell. You have a regular season problem in the NBA that the dirty secret is can't be fixed. Major League Baseball's got the same problem. You cannot make everybody sees the NFL and how every game matters, and people care about every game, and they're like, how do we get that? And the answer is, do you want to play one game a week? Because if you play one game a week, you got a chance. But I don't think you want to do that. So you can't. You can't. In sports where no one game can matter all that much, you can't make one game matter all that much. You just can't do it. They've tried this cockamamie tournament that the average person with a gun to their head, if you ask the average sports fan who won the NBA Cup this year, yeah,
no,
you know,
they were my team. They were my team in the pool.
Oh God, oh my God,
the Bucks.
Yes,
knew it.
But if there had been a clock,
I would have gotten it within 5 seconds.
That wasn't 5 seconds.
That was 5 seconds.
It wasn't.
That
5
was 5
seconds.
seconds.
It was more than 5
It was
seconds.
5 seconds.
It was not.
It was 5 seconds.
Definitely wasn't. You won money on it. Like you.
If they had celebrated, I bet I would have cared a little more.
Yeah, that's the reason. That was the problem there. They have they do have that issue. And what do you do about that? I don't know. Do you try to create outdoor games the way that the NHL has? I mean, that's worn off. They had the worst ratings ever for the winter class, although they did it at 5 o'clock on New Year's Eve. It was a very bizarre.
At the same time as the Rose Bowl. Or on New Year's Eve. Okay.
But maybe it was 6 o'clock. I think it actually ended up going up against the one playoff game that was on New Year's. Like, they don't know what they're doing there either. But do you try to do some other things? You can't make the NBA. The only thing you can hope for is that the local market cares about the team. And I get it. Like, in Washington, they've never like
when they had
they don't
Jordan,
know
they had that guy Jordan, didn't they?
Yeah, they don't know they have a team in Washington. Somebody's like, "Do you want to go to the NBA game?" They're like, "What? Where? Like, where would we go? We gotta get on a plane?" And they're like, "No, it's right here."
Well, that'd be a great idea when they decide to move the stadium. Outside.
They're not doing that anymore.
All right.
Yeah, they're revitalizing.
For now.
No, they've agreed to a new plan.
We'll
They're going to
see.
revitalize the Chinatown arena. Like, that's the best thing you can hope for, is trying to get the local market to care. That's what baseball's figured out. In baseball, you can't get nationally people to care about the games. But if you can get the people in the local market to care, and they do well with local TV ratings, then that can be profitable and can be a win. Now, all the teams say, well, we'd like to share those TV revenues. And so
I'd love to get a touch of, yes and whatever.
Yeah, it's a whole complicated thing. But, at the shaving 2 minutes off of each quarter.
So should they do?
No.
I mean,
it's also,
you'd
by
be
the way,
against everything, I guess.
By the way,
running clock.
You're also moving games to Amazon, so who gives a flying F about the TV ramifications of that? He's like, well, we got to do this for TV. You're taking them off of TV. Like, what are we doing? We're just saying nonsense.
Start doing like the picture in picture or something. You start playing commercials during while they're actually playing
the game,
so that way you can take less commercial breaks. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe there's something to that. I don't know. I mean, maybe. I don't know. But the problem isn't that the NBA does not have a games are too long problem. Baseball legitimately did. No question. The games where you're showing up at 7:30 and the games are going on until 11 o'clock, that was a problem. The NBA does not have that problem. Game starts at 7. It's over by 9:30. That you're out of the baseball specific problem. Got to have the games over by 10 o'clock. Basketball doesn't have that problem. Like, other than the rare, playoff game that has to start at 8:30 local time, but that's a playoff game. Like
that'll.
Yeah, they don't have that issue. The games start. The games don't. There's very few. Baseball had so many variables within the course of a game that could make a game go longer. That doesn't exist in basketball. Like there's not a wild discrepancy between how long the basketball games are. They're all about the same time. They got other problems, but that ain't it. This does smell though like somebody. I don't know. ESPN's like, well, we want to get. We think the ratings would be better if we play games at 7:30 and 9:30 instead of
7 and 10 or
whatever.
Yeah,
it is.
7:30 and 10.
That smells like somebody there pitched this to Adam Silver, and Adam Silver's like, well, let's work on that. But it's nonsense. That's all it is. It's just nonsense. All right, let's get a tidbit. Tidbit is brought to you by the CIAA tournament.
It's coming back to Baltimore as Baltimore welcomes the excitement of the Food Lion CIAA men's and women's basketball tournament at CFG Bank Arena, February 25th this spring through March 1st. Yeah, less than a month away. Get your tickets now. They're available at Ticketmaster.com. Again, Ticketmaster.com to find your tickets for the Food Lion CIAA men's and women's basketball tournament at CFG Bank Arena, February 25th through March 1st. The team of the hour, Washington Wizards. They lost again last night to the Toronto Raptors. They lost 106 to 82. Their 18th 20-point loss of the season. They've tied the 1970-1971 Cavaliers, which was their first season in the NBA, their first season as an NBA franchise, the Cleveland Cavaliers, in 1970 for the most such losses before the All-Star break in NBA, most such 20-point losses before the NBA All-Star break in NBA history. So,
congratulations.
Yeah.
Do they
maybe there'll be a banner tonight.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did they hang the banner?
And then Patrick Mahomes won his 17th.
God, it's gonna be so funny when they have the 8th pick in the NBA draft.
They better not get the 8th pick.
It's gonna be so funny
if they get they better not. Patrick Mahomes won his 17th playoff game on Sunday. Moves him into sole possession of second all time in postseason quarterback wins.
How many?
17.
Okay.
There are 15 guys with 10. Try to name them in order, I guess, but who has the most? And you should be able to get the top 15 here. Yeah, how many does Brady have?
25.
More.
30.
More.
34.
More.
40.
35. 35 wins for Brady.
Jesus.
More than double than Patrick Mahomes.
Montana.
Montana will be second, 16. Brady, Mahomes, Montana.
Now it gets interesting, right? Bradshaw?
Yes, Bradshaw is on there. He would be tied for fourth here. There are 4 guys with 14 wins.
4 guys with 14 wins. 4 guys with 14 wins. John Elway.
Elway has 14.
How about Troy Aikman?
Aikman,
how do you win 3 Super Bowls and you don't have, how is that possible?
Oh, sorry, he does have 11. He has 11.
Like, what?
Yeah, sorry, I skimmed over his name. He is top 13, so he does have 11.
How about Ben Roethlisberger?
Yes, Roethlisberger has 13, one behind Bradshaw and company.
Jim Kelly.
Jim Kelly does not have 10.
He got to 4 Super Bowls and he doesn't have 10 playoff wins.
So you just need to win 2 each time? He
I
had
guess
9.
He
has
was
9.
Jim
Kelly has 9 playoff wins.
That's insane. Got to 4 Super Bowls. If he had won one. If he had won one of them.
Yeah.
All right, Peyton Manning.
Peyton, yes, is tied with Elway and Bradshaw, and one other with 14 playoff victories.
Brett Favre.
Brett Favre is on the list. He has 13.
Steve Young. It's always Steve Young.
Steve Young.
It's always Steve Young.
Manning, Young, Elway, Bradshaw, the 14 game playoff winners.
How many more are there?
I think I need 5.
Jesus Christ. Aaron Rodgers.
Yep, Rodgers has 12.
I said Troy Aikman. Roger Staubach.
Staubach has 13, tied with Favre. So we have...
How about... I'm trying to think of other old school guys. How about Len Dawson?
Not Len Dawson.
Bart Starr.
Not Bart Starr.
I don't know how many playoff games they even played back then. That's part of the problem. John Unitas.
Not John Unitas.
Is it? Should I be thinking old school?
Yeah, you should. This guy, he has 10. He played for the... I'm not sure even which team he would have.
Oh,
he
good.
played for the LA Rams, the
Van
New
Brocklin.
the New York Giants, then for 7 seasons.
LA Rams and the New York Giants.
I guess he did this. We had to have done it with Washington, unless he was a backup for them. Washington in the early 90s.
Mark Rippon?
No.
I don't think he played for those other teams. Aye.
Looks like he... Okay, yeah, he was the backup for Washington. So, yeah, he got his playoff wins with the Rams and the Giants. Wait a minute, hold on. Maybe I didn't get this right. He was a backup on all the teams. Jeff Rutledge is.
Oh my God.
Okay, so I guess they just can't make it unless did he get a snap or something? But they're counting him as having 10 playoff wins, even though he was the backup to Phil Simms with the Giants. He was
that
the
just
backup
sounds like
with
somehow he
Washington.
was on the roster for a bunch of teams that made the playoffs, and so they credit him with. There's something wrong with
Then there might be only one more. Then
whatever your list is, it's a bad list. If Jeff Rutledge is
so I only wanted the top 13. We have one more. One more double-digit playoff winner.
One more double-digit playoff winner. Joe Namath.
Not Joe Namath. He has 10 playoff victories.
Dan Marino.
Not Dan Marino.
Before or after the century?
It is after the century.
Russell Wilson.
Not Russ. Russ has 9.
What a pathetic loser. Oh, Drew Brees.
Drew Brees has 9.
Is it Joe Flacco?
Joe Flacco has 10 playoff victories. Come on.
I should have.
Gotta lock in.
I should have. You're right.
So, yeah, top 13 for Flacco. With the one of 13 guys with 10 playoff victories.
How about it? All right, very good. Let's get tubular.
Have you ever thought of taking a cruise to these wonderful destinations with sunny skies and beautiful beaches? Well, wait no longer. We're ready for you to cruise from the Cruise Maryland Terminal.
Have a little phrase that you can go from baggage to margarita in about 15 minutes.
Choose fun with an array of destinations, onboard activities, entertainment, and world-class cuisine.
Contact your travel agent and book your cruise today. Let your adventure begin.
By the way, how funny is it that Eli Manning won 2 Super Bowls? I didn't even guess him. I didn't even throw that out there because he either won the Super Bowl or did nothing.
He has 9 playoff wins.
I'm actually surprised it's 9.
Yeah. Or sorry, no, only 8. Sorry.
There you go.
Only 8.
It's all right. Anyway, here's what's coming up tonight, totally tubular-wise. A couple of teams still in action, and a big one for UMBC. They're at home tonight at 7 o'clock against Bryant on ESPNU. I believe they're doing half-price tickets for tonight. So big opportunity to get out and check out the Retrievers, and a big game tonight coming off that blowout win over Vermont on Saturday. Towson's at Delaware at 6:30. Is this the only time they play Delaware this year? Does Delaware come back? Is this the final?
I think it might be
the final
because it's a super conference now, the CAA.
They have so many teams. Got to get those North Carolina A&T matchups.
Yep. Because they got to play. It's a pretty Delaware. Yeah, this is the only trip to Delaware. Or sorry, no, Delaware does come back February 13th. Right. They will be in Towson.
Flow Sports tonight for Towson, Delaware. So sorry. Listen to Spiro call it on the website.
That is typically what I do.
That's what you
spend my evenings with Spiro.
Big Ten hoops tonight on FS1. Ohio State, Penn State at 6:30. Illinois, Nebraska at 8:30. Oregon, UCLA at 10:30. The rest of the college basketball find at GlennClarkRadio.com. Monumental, Lakers, Wizards at 7. TNT and True TV for Hawks, Cavs at 7. Rockets Grizzlies at 9:30. Monumental 2 for Capitol Senators at 7. ESPN's got Sharks Kraken at 10:30. But before that, the Pro Bowl skills, whatever nonsense at 7 o'clock. ESPN and Plus and Hulu for Islanders Flyers at 7:30. Round 1 of the Pebble Beach Pro-Am, 3 o'clock on the Golf Channel. NFL Network has Senior Bowl practice at 3, and then the East-West Shrine game tonight at 8 o'clock. We just talked about Carter Runyon. He's part of that. Access TV for TNA Impact at 8. Non-sports.
You're cordially invited. The Reese Witherspoon and Will Ferrell movie.
Today?
Yes, Prime Video is where that one hits. Also on Prime will be a new episode of Beast Games, of course.
Nope.
Winding down. We're
Nope.
gonna get a winner soon.
Nope.
The Recruit season 2 on Netflix.
I don't know what that is.
It's the Noah Centineo show. That he was plugging at Raw.
Sure.
New episode of The Traitors as well on Peacock.
Boy, a lot of people have tried to push me on that one.
It's not bad, actually.
Sure it is.
The new episode of Impractical Jokers as well on TBS.
Yes.
Animal Control, Going Dutch.
I do like those shows.
Ghost, of course, is back.
Somebody told me that I would like that show if I gave it like an opportunity. I'm like, probably not going to get around to that.
And that's really Pamela Anderson and Will Sasso will be on Jimmy Kimmel.
Yes, they are promoting The Recruit.
Oh, they are?
Yes,
Really?
the new season of The Recruit.
Good for them. Good for them. Pete Davidson will be on Fallon.
Yes, plugging the Grammys.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
he's singing.
That makes sense. Yeah,
he's also in. I guess it probably is the Grammys, but he's also in Dogman.
Sure.
That
my
anime.
kids are going to see it tomorrow. They're very excited.
He plays the evil cat.
It's a big day on the social calendar tomorrow because apparently the kids have a half day, and
big day on the social calendar.
One of the moms said that she would pick up all of the kids from school.
Wow! Shout out her.
And take them to the movie, take them to lunch and to the movie theater. And I think it's like 6 kids, 8 kids, something like that. I don't know what's going on here. It's a whole. I like this is one of my. I actually went to high school with this mom.
And you said done.
Well, I mean,
no
it
second
doesn't.
guesses
The real problem was when they suggested afterwards that we all meet up at another one of the mom's houses. I'm like, Although there's nothing going on tomorrow, like there's no games to watch or anything like that, so it's not. There's no real reason why I couldn't.
We got Iowa Penn State wrestling. That's pretty good.
Yeah. So anyway, there's no real reason why I couldn't.
Why did you just blow over that? 1 and 2.
Oh boy. So there's no real reason why I couldn't do it. I just, I'm all right. But big day.
Day 2 of the Pro Bowl games.
Actually, you know what? My wife and I are about to have an awkward conversation because apparently the boy did not do an assignment last week and was given a note that he was supposed to give us and never gave it to us. So I might have to cancel Dogman.
Ooh, wow!
And by the way, my wife is terrible at going through with punishments.
Okay.
Like,
so you're always bad guy. You're always the Pete Davis. You're the evil cat.
I end up having to be the one. I end up having to be the one like, no, I don't care that you bought a ticket to Dogman for him. He's going to have to pay you back for it. He's not going. End of it. Like, he screwed up. Not you or I.
What grade is it? He's the...
This is the older son. This is the 9-year-old. Yeah, this is the fourth grade.
Fourth grade. Okay.
Fourth grade. But he'll be 10 next Thursday. Next Wednesday.
Yeah, I guess I can already see how you're almost 10, dude. You gotta.
Dude, this is the way it is. Like,
in.
there's no more. Like, we're not playing around with this type of stuff. Like, we got it. There has to be a real punishment. I don't want him to lose his birthday party. Like, that's a little over the top. There has to be something tangible that he feels.
Man,
like they got. There can't just be like a. Oh, you know better, right?
So how important is this? Like, Mark Andrews dropping the. How important is this assignment?
This is not the playoffs, but
okay.
This is
you're a bubble team, and
yeah, I mean this is really where we're at this point. All right, thanks today to Emory Hunt. Thanks also to Bruce Weber. We'll get that in our report card up in the greatest hits section of the
Can You Take Me Higher
tab at GlennClarkRadio.com. Tomorrow, Stan the Fan back in the studio with us, and stuff and things.
Yes,
stuff.
Yes,
and things. Cool.
Maybe we'll talk about the Wizards-Lakers game. All the big things.
Sure. Thanks
Pro Bowl
to
games, day 2.
UMBC Bryant.
Yeah.
That's what I'll be watching tonight. Thanks to everybody at Press Box, all of our great sponsors and partners, including Live Casino and Hotel, Cruise Maryland, Crown Trophy, Brigant's Brigade, Easy Pass, Royal Farms, CIAA Tournament, HelpMyGamblingProblem.org, the Costa Sin, MSAA, Maryland Sports, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Thanks to Griffin at Griffin_Bass. Follow us, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Glenn Clark Radio. Have a great Thursday evening. Go Towson. Go UMBC. Duke sucks.